Everyone here. Right, good evening, everyone. We will open the public meeting. It is now 6:16. We'll begin with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I suggest a motion to deny abatement request pursuant to Title 36, Section 841, line 2, in case number 2024-01.
Second.
All in favor? All in favor, thank you. And I'm going to open it up real quick for a public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come to the podium and speak? Anyone? Yes.
Mr. Wolf, guilt.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Wilson and, here representing the Winter Lions Club. We're going to give you an overview of a plan that we've got as Bruce has done across the point. We'd like to accomplish the following objectives, over there. Restore the gazebo woodwork and paint the structure, repair and paint the exterior walls of the bathroom building, repair the pump cover and paint the structure, repair or replace picnic tables, and then paint them to match the metal bench cover color. Paint the wooden benches to match the metal bench color. Trim the shrubs that were planted on purpose, and cut the trees that were not planted on purpose. To, if we can find the right equipment, remove the dead tree that's in the water adjacent to the across the point. The reason we want to remove it is we suspect if you get high water, it's not going to float downstream and plug things up on the bad by it. And if we can find someone, restore the flower bed around the flagpole. It's hard to say whether the weather will cooperate this year. Give us the approval, we'll work until all the objectives are accomplished. That's all we got. Thank you. I'm going to leave this with you.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. I just actually got down on the fair last week and documented all of those deficiencies as well. I was going to present them to the town manager. So, then hopefully maybe the recreation committee will get back up and running too, to see how we can support your efforts.
Okay. I heard that somebody might want to put a metal wall and replace the woodwork that was in the gazebo. It's which time with metal gating for railing. The town tried that up to the back in a long term. Well, anyway, the local mountain, to keep people from falling off the tower,
Yeah.
and they ruined that. So,
Yeah, and then certainly I want to see that the public bathrooms in that whole building get.
when I walked in there, they weren't destroyed. Right, just where they were, well,
Right. It's just an outside building.
Yeah.
We also coordinate with the Winter Grow program as regarding the flower beds. I know we have a grow program. It's a volunteer gardeners that contribute their time to work on the flower beds around the town. That's by Andy. And doing, we can get you the contact information.
Okay, I just wondered if apparently somebody wasn't picked to
Yeah,
do this, so, yeah, no, we'll get a hold of Ann, and that'll be fine.
thank you very
Well,
much.
thank you, guys.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
The
you.
only thing I would say, one question. Can we, is there any way that we can
kind of piggyback on this project and put up some sort of surveillance down there?
Yes. I've been talking to all of them, I'd like to do that.
We talked about that a while ago.
Yeah, it's just been, I don't know.
Yeah, we talked about that a while ago. I would.
Yeah, we can do that. Last time we did that, the equipment was destroyed in 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
The surveillance.
Yeah, that's a problem too.
It becomes a target for the vandalism to some extent.
Have a live feed to the police station, I think that would. It's something we have to talk about,
Look, it's the-
yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. When will I know what you're gonna do?
So, Mr. Wolston, let me digest this
Okay.
and maybe consult with some of the council members and then we won't dilly dally.
That was a meeting blessing.
Yeah. It's town property.
Have any issue?
I have no issue with that. I'd start it.
Do you have any reason why we wouldn't?
Well, I think the only thing, and Mr. Wolston and I talked about this last week is, some, like repair or replace the picnic tables. One of the things that we're abundantly aware of now is anything that's wooden out there is gonna get destroyed, whether it's a picnic table or the slats and the gazebo. And so what we've talked about internally some is that when we replace those assets, maybe we should be looking at like metal benches versus
Yeah.
wooden benches, or, you know, there's no need to replace the wooden slats at the gazebo because as soon as those get replaced, they get kicked out by
Can you
juveniles.
give them the authority to move forward with the stuff that they can?
Yes, so again, so what I like to do is just, you know, digest the list and see where we can make best use of your good works.
Sure.
I meant to give you those pictures.
I think, you know, I don't have a solution in hand, but if we put metal benches out there, then we gotta bolt them down to concrete because there'll be somebody that'll throw them in the lake. I mean, somewhere we need to. Cameras, I don't know, but.
Yeah, anything, you're absolutely right, Andy. We would have to anchor those into the ground so that they not be movable.
Something we talked about in our bench policy.
I'm gonna write that down.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right.
Can I make a comment? Go to board. Talking about some tree cutting.
Hey, Mark, come here.
So just listening to him talking about tree cutting and getting that tree removed. That needs to be done actually sooner than later. If they stay in too long, then DEP doesn't like you removing them. And the trees that were not planted but are growing, they have to stay unless we come up with a planting plan. So you can't just have trees and, you know, have happiness.
Diameter, right?
There is no diameter, not within 100 feet. So anything within 100 feet, we need to look at. We can probably cut some trees, but we need to figure out ways we can replant to cut that. So that's the only concern I had with that.
There's a tree on the dam.
Yeah, I think. Matter of fact, I'm quite sure that the previous town manager, when we were working on a regional grant for workforce point improvement. Went out there with Wendy Dennis, talked about the shrub list, you're gonna do some brush removal and. There was some invasive species and stuff, and Wendy kind of put starch on it, said it was illegal, so we're gonna have to do a dance here. To get control of the shrubbery, and it's best that we get control of the shrubbery sooner than later, because the bigger it gets, the bigger problem it's gonna be.
Thank
Did
you.
you see some of that road? That's occurring on the point as well.
I did not look at that.
All right, so
There's
Anthony,
options there, just.
we'll look at the list that they want to do as far as benches, as far as a planting schedule, something. So, all right,
Perfect, yeah.
Thank you.
Stabilization.
we'll reach back out to Ms. Bell. Any other comments? All right, item 151, appointment of Public Works Director Kevin Doyle. And who is this? The copy here. And Winthrop order 2024-09, whereas various appointments of directors are necessary, be it ordered by the town council of the town of Winthrop to appoint the following director for a term expiring 12/31/2024 as follows. Public Works Director Kevin Doyle.
Yeah, so, Kevin to be here. Kevin, you want to step to the microphone and just introduce yourself and say a little something about yourself?
My name is Kevin Doyle. I'm excited to come. I look forward to this. And at this game a long time with a lot of experience and knowledge in this game. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me.
We'll say Kevin's already been gathering up information, preparing for plowing season. We had a very successful day or afternoon on Friday, interviewing a truck driving candidate. And so he's hitting the ground running, but his first official day will be on the 21st.
Great.
Does anybody have any questions right now?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I move to appoint Kevin Doyle as Public Works Director for the term to expire December 31st.
Second.
All in favor? All in favor? Thank you. And welcome, Mr. Wazir. Right.
152, the very, at the very big bottom.
Update of the use of electric buses by the Winthrop Public Schools and other school-related matters. And I know we have both the superintendent and transportation director, Josh Wheeler and Becky Foley here. Thank you, Dr. Becky Foley. So, yes, we have a budget update.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of update on the electric bus situation. What I can tell you is after Dr. Foley and I kind of had a conversation about this at the beginning of school, literally as I was walking out of her office, checked my mailbox, and there was a recall notice from Lion, recalling all 4 of our buses. Yet again, I shouldn't say again, this is the first time they've been officially recalled. However, the issue that they recall them for is a similar issue to that which we had last winter when we took all the buses off the road. So where we're at with it right now is the parts have they've arrived to the technician in the technician's hands, and we don't have them here personally, but the technician has the parts that he needs, and he has been scheduled to come here and perform the corrections for the recall on Wednesday of this week. And I don't know exactly how long that's going to take, and I don't know exactly what the scope of that fix is, although I do know that at least part of that fix is a similar issue to what was cited as being the issue that was corrected when we went back to the factory last. So beyond that, like I said, I don't have a whole lot of new information to share with you, other than the fact that we are hopefully moving in the right direction, but at the same time, we're kind of in the same place that we were 15 months ago. Glad to answer any questions that anybody has.
James, and then Andy, and then Lloyd. Saw you guys off.
Hey guys, thanks for coming up.
Absolutely.
So, couple of things, first and foremost, where does it come apart, come to a lemon bar, another recall, another problem? Does anybody gonna recognize it, or have you spoken with anybody at the state level or something of replacing these with something that's a little more tried and true? I think you mentioned that last time, when you were standing up there, maybe looking at a different company, not trying to move away from it, one of my questions. And second question is, how safe do you feel? Would you ride in these buses?
So, to address your first question.
Yeah.
We have had conversations about this, as far as changing to a different brand, that sort of thing. Unfortunately, the position that we're in, and I'm saying unfortunately, sort of as totally, but
Right.
we're in a position where, we're committed to Lion at this point. And there's really no, at least to my knowledge, there is no contingency that allows us to kind of like, 30-day money back guarantee type of thing. So as far as that is concerned, I still haven't seen myself a document or any sort of language from the DEP or the EPA that says that if we don't use the buses, that we're quote unquote on the hook.
Okay.
I will tell you that when Jim Hodgkin and I met with the gentleman from the EPA, he told us sort of anecdotally that, it was like, well, yeah, there's some sort of language somewhere where if we don't use them, then we'll be held accountable. And I asked for that in writing, and it wasn't available at that time. So I'm not exactly sure what that means. As of right now, I haven't been able to find that from them or from any of my own research. So as much as I would love to have the opportunity to explore other brands, simply because, as I said, it's been 15 and a half months now, and I don't feel that we're a whole lot further ahead than we were before. Because once this recall gets corrected, then we're kind of back to, okay, now we gotta put them back on the road to test them. Once we test them, then we gotta figure out, okay, how do we redeploy them with students and that sort of thing. I am, as I've said all along, I'm here to report facts to you.
Yep.
But since you're asking me my opinion.
Yes, please.
And I want to be abundantly clear that you're asking me for my opinion.
Correct.
Because of the experience that I've had with these in the last 15 and a half months, I don't feel comfortable putting my endorsement right now on this as being something that I would be, comfortable hopping in tomorrow, putting kids on and driving around.
I appreciate that, because I know you've been up here, you've given us the straight story from Jump Street. So,
Absolutely.
and I do appreciate that, whether we like to hear it or not. So that's why I really wanted your opinion, because I do get the straight answers. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. And, and like I said, I don't have any empirical data, so to speak, that leads me to that conclusion right now, other than the fact that we have the same data now that we had 15 and a half months ago. At some point in time, as far as I'm concerned, yes, we have to make a good faith effort to try to make this work. I feel that we've done that.
Yeah.
And I feel that I'm more than happy to continue to do that.
Yeah.
But at some point in time, I don't know when our good faith effort needs to turn into it might be time to make a different change. But again, I'm more than happy to continue to pursue this, and we continue to try to make that effort for as long as our leadership and you folks decide that that's the right way to go.
I appreciate your support.
Yes, sir.
Andy?
Yeah, Josh, did I hear you right? This recall concerns an issue that they've already sent back for repair once?
That is my understanding, yes. The issue that caused us, well, back up, more specifically, the issue that caused the bus to fail, the day that it failed on Peter Nielsen and then a gentleman and myself. The understanding that they've given me is that this is the same issue now that has become nationally noticed on a recall campaign. Basically, our experience and the experience of several other school districts that are utilizing these vehicles led Lion to take what we found and what we experienced and to turn that into a national recall campaign. So basically, they, for all intents and purposes, acknowledged the issue.
And how much,
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
That's okay, I was just gonna say, my understanding was that when they went back to the factory for give or take 3 months, these issues were corrected. This very issue, again, this is just my understanding, this very issue was corrected on all the vehicles. They were rechecked and sent back. When I got this recall notice, I reached out to them and I said, here's what we got. I believe that this issue has already been corrected. Correct me if I'm wrong. Does that mean that our buses still need to go through your recall process? And he said, yes. So I don't know what the discrepancy is there. If it's just that they're out of an abundance of caution, they've decided to recheck everything. or if it's a slightly different flavor of issue. You know, there's so many different electrical connectors and data connectors and all that sort of thing in these vehicles that it's understandably hard to track, you know, where an issue is coming from, but it just so happens that this is an ongoing significant issue where there's a breakdown in communication between the high voltage side and the low voltage side causing, these failures.
And this question kind of comes out of the blue, but what is it costing us to replace those buses, either through rental or purchase at this point? Because they're off the road.
Yeah, correct, they are. So to answer that question, there's a couple of different answers. Last year, we were cornered into a situation simply because we didn't have enough vehicles in our fleet. We had to rent buses, you recall, from Searbus. The original agreement was, and there's been some sort of confusion on this, and I know that Dr. Foley has communicated with Lion some about this. They were meant to pay for at least a portion of the rentals of the Sear buses. There was confusion as to whether they were meant to pay for a portion or all or a little bit or a lot. We're still not entirely sure, but I do believe, last I knew, Dr. Foley was negotiating with them to try to recuperate the maximum amount of funds possible for that. As far as currently, I was able to secure the grant funding at the end of last year on an emergency basis last spring to acquire the 3 additional diesel buses, which was done, even though we had to pay one payment upfront. That's grant funding, which will then be rolled back to us one payment at a time over the next 3 years. We're still, because the fleet was sort of built around the concept of having 4 electric buses, we replaced 3 with diesels. So essentially, we're still up roughly 1 vehicle short. We're making it work. It's just that one, in theory, that one vehicle should be our spare bus that we rotate through to keep one vehicle in case one breaks down, that sort of thing. So right now, we're deploying every vehicle every day because we're 1 vehicle short. And so to circle back and answer your question, right now, it's not necessarily costing us anything to run or to not be running the electric buses. It's just that we ended up having to purchase vehicles that we didn't anticipate having to purchase.
So what do you think the consequence would be if either the school board or the town council had a vote of no confidence in those buses and told them that they could keep them? In so many words.
As I've said all along, I don't think that, and again, this is just me sort of editorializing, but I don't think that there's anybody that's gonna pop up here with a clipboard and check the mileage on the buses to make sure that they're being used in a certain way. And I could be wrong about that, but we've had them for over a year now, and nobody has shown any interest in figuring out whether or not we're gonna take that as you will. But I think that the other part of that, whether we decide to continue with this project or not, I don't think that there's ever a judge or jury or committee or government agency that's ever gonna say to us, oh, you have to use something that you don't have any confidence in. Regardless of where the funding came from. If with the documented history that we have here with these vehicles, it would be unthinkable for someone to say, oh, you have to, even though you don't have any confidence in them. Now, again, that's me editorializing on that, but I have to believe that that would be the case. And again, I'm not in any way, because Dr. Foley and I have talked about this, and I don't want to be contrary to what I said to her. I'm more than happy to continue my efforts and the efforts of my department to see that this project is to fruition as much as possible. But at the same time, as I said, I want to be abundantly clear that my confidence at this point is low. And the fact that we have another technician coming on Wednesday to install some more parts is to me just the next in a long series of technician visits that has, as of yet, done essentially nothing to make us any better off than.
I think we're all pretty confident in the efforts that you've made. I think the lack of confidence is in the bus manufacturers. And no matter how hard you work and no matter what you do, we're gonna end up with the same piece of junk going down the road with our kids in it. And, you know, I'll tell you, if I don't have kids in school right now, just grandkids, and if it was my decision to make, I would call Dr. Foley and say, I do not want my children riding in those buses, period. So And I don't know where to go with all this.
I will say that I did a little bit of this colloquially, just looking at mileages on our diesel buses. We have somewhere between roughly in our newest, well, not the newest ones that we just got in the spring, but the ones that the diesel buses that we acquired at the same time as the electric buses, we're running about 20,000 miles on them. And I can tell you that in the entire fleet of diesel buses, I can count on one hand the number of times they've had to go back for warranty work in the entire fleet. And they all have, give or take, 20,000. So I just want it to be clear that it's not common for school buses to be high maintenance like this. And it's kind of on the contrary, school buses tend to be work vehicles, they're built to work, they're built to last. And when we look at the difference between the issues that we've had with the Lion projects versus the issues that we've had with the Thomas H. Liner C2s, which is the rest of the fleet, there's absolutely no.
I think we all appreciate your persistence in trying to resolve this problem.
Thank you.
We really do.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, my question is also, so if I understand you correctly, we're not getting any compensation for these buses being down for the recall this year?
No, well, no, we were, I can't quote the numbers exactly. We did receive one payment, to my knowledge, we received one payment from Lion last year for a small portion of, I believe, Dr. Foley might know off the top of her head, but I believe we got compensated for 2 months of the rentals last year. That was it.
It was my understanding, and I believe this, the council was told that they're paying for the rentals and they're paying for the diesel fuel as well.
That was what we.
Because we weren't supposed to have any diesel fuel, that was part of the selling point of the buses.
That's right.
So what are we gonna do for pressure, put pressure on these guys to pay what they said they were gonna pay?
And that's something that I will have to spin back on you folks, and between my leadership and you folks, that's something that we may want to have a conversation about. And again, I know Dr. Foley has been negotiating with them to kind of try to mitigate this, so she may want to address
And we
that.
probably will be doing it sooner than later, and not letting it get carried out.
Agreed.
And also, they should be paying, if the buses are down right now, 4 buses in our fleet are down, they should be paying something for compensation now.
I'll piggyback on that. So first off, I want to highlight a couple different things. One thing being that this has been ongoing now for an extended period of time. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I'm, as a proponent of this program, I would really like to see the EPA administrators talk to us. So if we can reach out to them, I want an explanation. Not only do I want an explanation about that, but an explanation why Lion has been able to leverage the EPA to then force us to maintain and commit to using these buses after we've been seeing these issues over and over. At some point, it has to stop. It's ridiculous. So we reappropriated funds, reallocated funds in April of last year for the bus purchases. That money was taken and used to get the buses that was no longer available in our unallocated fund, which could be covering the school deficit that we are currently experiencing. So we have that as costs. We have costs of diesel costs. We now have an additional diesel fleet, which is now going to have to require maintenance further down the line. These are all additional costs that Lion clearly has no care of whatsoever, and clearly has obfuscated their responsibility to this town in regards to backing up their fleet. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm done even anticipate or entertaining negotiating with Lion. They either do it, what they're supposed to do, refund us, get the buses, or get us buses that are in working order, or then we should be counseling an attorney. And he's discussing and getting the EPA administrator to talk to us, because we need to figure out what needs to happen and what's next, because this is ridiculous. It has gone on for well over a year. So I'm sorry. That's
One quick follow, do you have a total of what is owed to us based on their, what they should have paid?
I believe Dr. Foley does have that information, because as I said, she's been kind of.
Before you sit down, Gus.
Sure.
Any other districts using these buses?
Yes, Yarmouth actually is, and I only chuckle because as I was sitting just a moment ago, the transportation director from Yarmouth just called my phone. because we had meant to connect today to talk about this and just kind of share some updated information and whatnot, but we didn't get a chance to. My understanding is that Dr. Foley did speak with the superintendent in Yarmouth. The superintendent provided some, I don't want to speak for Dr. Foley, but it sounded like some kind of tepid feedback. I'm not sure where the communications breakdown is there, but in speaking to the transportation director directly, he has had an almost identical experience to ours. He tried the first day of school to put one of his electric buses on the road, made it to the end of the bus yard, threw a warning, and was taken out of service. And they have not been back in service.
Thank you.
As of when I spoke to him last week, Chris Fuller.
Yes.
Thank you, Josh.
You're
Thank you, John.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Hopefully I didn't confuse the issue. Okay.
Dr. Foley?
No, no.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can address the issue of just our current negotiations. So my understanding is that, well, I know for sure that there was never a written agreement last year, so it was all. So now I'm negotiating, with people who have different perceptions of the phone conversations. So I do believe that they did pay, and I can double check on this, but I do think that they did pay for the rentals last year and for the fuel. Except for maybe the last payment, and that's what we're now negotiating. And I think that was somewhere in the vicinity of about 50,000. But again, there was no written agreement with what could happen. The other thing that I want to say is that the buses are currently drivable, just as they are with many recalls on vehicles. We have chosen to err on the side of caution because of our previous experience. And so I'm hoping that, you know, these parts are installed and then we can start test driving them again.
So
I have not ruled out, is it Roy?
yes,
Roy, I have not ruled out, you know, looking into, you know, the finer print of, quote, the limbo. But right now, I'm negotiating the last payment from last year. And then we're hoping that they install the parts on Wednesday and that we can start test driving them again. And what the Yarmouth superintendent said to me is that they're doing the same thing that we're doing, that he too is very supportive of electric vehicles because we know the advantages they offer, but when they get an error message, just like us, they take them off the road. And we are lucky that with the additional purchase of those 3 buses in the spring, that we can provide transportation to our students, you know, without incurring more costs. So we're not incurring costs right now. Other than if they were working, then we would be saving, like you said, the people cost and.
could be reducing costs if they were
Yes,
operational.
right.
I got a couple quick questions. One is, who last year with no written agreement? Who was it Josh? Were you doing yeah, that's what I was thinking. And Jim was doing the negotiations.
Yes,
Yeah, it just seemed unreasonable that we wouldn't have that in writing if they were in a situation like that.
Thanks, having this real quick. Have you reviewed the previous school meetings with Ryan that when they came in, or they didn't come in, it was on Zoom, I believe? Okay, because there may be some verbiage or communication between there and them that would solidify the agreement. I almost want to feel like there may be. Because I think it was very clear that we had concerns and they were very adamant about us using the buses. So I would
We
research
installed,
that.
we
Should be on the
Force
YouTube
that.
or the Rambler YouTube page, I believe.
And was this at a meeting with the town council?
so that you're
Board,
involved.
I believe, dropped, is that correct?
Reaches over
Yeah.
certain bottom.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Fuller, thank you, but, I have a concern,
want the superintendent.
and as you stated there, you know, some vehicles have recalls, people still drive them.
No, I think you,
This error message, from what I read,
not by.
it seems like it shuts down things like the safety things, steering, brakes, and other operational things, which are a huge safety concern when we're transporting children. I mean, we're not talking about your car that, you know, it might backfire or set something. This is a safety hazard for kids and other people out on the road. You can't steer or stop the vehicle. I mean, I have my bus license. I understand what it's to operate one of those buses going down the road. And it didn't have, I mean, I don't know where you're gonna go with it, right? I just think it's really, I don't think it's very smart for us to operate them until they clear them completely. That's why I asked Josh if he would drive, because I know he's driven the buses for many years. He's been up there and he does a great job at it, and I just know he wouldn't drive something that wasn't safe. So it's a big concern to me, and lying seems to be lying, we need to hold them accountable. And they need to make sure these buses are checked out, whether they take them back, take them to the plant, go through them. I mean, I'm a technician by trade, I mean, you can keep sending me out, and you can keep throwing bad parts at it, and you're gonna get different results, but if it's not fixed and not safe, I'm not supportive of it. So, thanks.
There been any discussion as far as costs associated with taking them out and test driving them and going over that as well in the negotiations or reimbursement?
No, and Josh and I have really talked about trying to drive them at a time where we're not incurring additional costs. Right, so we have a couple of drivers that are 40-hour-a-week drivers, and we have workshop days, those kind of things where we're not incurring additional costs.
I think there's a bigger problem. Besides what, you know, and I think you're doing a great job. I really do. I appreciate all your efforts. But I think there's a bigger problem going forward that, you know, for there not to be a written agreement, that's troubling. And that's pretty scary. Especially when you're dealing with contracts of this size and magnitude. And my question is, where is the school board on this stuff? Why weren't they, I mean, apprised of this, or why didn't they ask questions? You're dealing with taxpayer money. And, you know, you're dealing with a situation here where this is not easily remedied. I mean, in my opinion, you know, that's a huge issue. Where the hell is the school board on this stuff? It's a huge question I've got. When and again, you know, going forward, we're gonna have to have a discussion. And I have complete confidence in you, because I like what I see. But I mean, I think you're doing a great job, but I think going forward, it's a huge issue. That's not acceptable to me, you know, that there was just a written or, you know, a verbal agreement. I mean, it's not, that's an issue.
I will say we're trying to forge a new path. And committed to getting those kind of things in writing, and I'm sure there was an assumption that that agreement wasn't.
And I'll say, I completely appreciate that, and appreciate you going forward for everything you've done in short time. But certainly as the council in the town, we've been dealing with this for a little while, so there's obviously some other frustrations on our end. So it's probably in our best interest that we have a fresh outlook on this. But, you know, where this is a government-run program, there are gonna be difficulties in holding line accountable without the EPA administrators of this program at the table. And they owe us answers. They answer to taxpayers just as much as we do. So whether we need Susan Collins' office, Angus King again, to get involved in this and push a little bit more leverage, because I understand we work close in doing that. And then I think the program administrators pushed back because they understand the reputation of their program is on the line. And Lion being one of the main manufacturers that they rely upon in order to have a successful program. Now, with that said, we have to basically, to say that, there hasn't been negative impacts in this community because of this situation, I don't think is fair. Because I think we've had to do a lot of juggling. It has affected the school budget. And now we see ourselves in a situation where we don't even know if we're getting reimbursed appropriately, I think. And we don't know if there's any set agreement. There probably isn't, because I think Lions, as a corporation, is well aware that if they put something in writing, they would be on the hook for it. Whereas if they just got a verbal and said, okay, then, this situation could happen. So I think we seriously need to, between the school and the municipal side, look at, let's see what happens over the next few weeks, obviously, but at this point, the ship has sailed for me. There has already been a cost beyond just having to purchase other buses. It has really eroded public confidence in this program. And the sustainable effort utilizing electrical buses moving forward, period. So there are costs beyond what we are seeing here in regards to this program. So I do think as a school administrator, I think it would probably also be in your guys' best interest to really leverage the fact that this program is riding on their reputation and right now it's failing.
One last thing. I think one last thing, and then I think she's got.
Okay, well, this really wasn't a question for Dr. Foley. I'm wondering if the board, I am right along with you on this. And I'm wondering if the board just thought to come right out and vote no confidence in the use of these buses. That will send the message.
I would like to need to reach out to the EA administrators of this program and see if they would be willing to talk to us at least.
Dr. Folk could do the same,
Yeah.
and Senator Collins, and Senator King. I
Yep.
mean, even though he's not here.
All
but I
in
mean,
here.
Get them all in here. This is ridiculous. This is the feasting of America.
And if there isn't, also there should be an inspector general's office attached to this program as well, and they would be probably, it'd be well advised for your office to get in contact with them as well.
Can you do that, Dr. Foley? Can you send those letters out this week?
I would not say I can send those letters out this week just because of everything that's on my plate, and other issues that I'm dealing with.
Like one of your staff?
But.
I would just make phone calls. I mean, I wouldn't even send a letter, just make a phone call.
Definitely, consider your ideas and then have these come back and let us know.
Thank you, Dr. Foley. And I also want to sit there and just add on to what Linda had said about the school board, and I do know that they have questions, and I do know that that's why we also have the superintendent come and give us consistent updates regarding the school buses. So there was just some lacking information on there, and the fact that Josh Wheeler did say that there was no document saying that that we were on the hook. It's good that we're finally pursuing that. I think it would be best to reach out to the school board and see what the school board has to say, but I also agree that I do feel that there is a potential lawsuit here that we could pursue for the school board pertaining to this, just given the fact that you have all the documented history and that there are schools that are engaging these buses, experiencing these same conflicts or issues. But I think that that is definitely something worth seeking. With it, like as you said, with an attorney. I know that you also have other matters that you'd like to discuss, so.
Well, I just put out a new budget memo to the board last week, and I didn't know whether you guys had questions or you want me to go over it to give you kind of an update about where we are. I think it's more positive news than maybe the buses, so maybe we a short update on that.
Great.
So the memo that was in your packet, the biggest difference in this memo and the first memo is the use of, you can see an added column is in there that says assigned fund balance. And this is an auditing practice that I was not familiar with because it's not that common of a practice in districts. And this is a practice that when you know how much you're going to use of your undesignated fund balance as a revenue source for the next budget, you can place it in an assigned fund balance rather than an undesignated. This was new learning for Nick Cool, who's your finance director that doesn't have that much experience on the school side, but also for Deb Roberts, who is the main school management chief financial officer, and for me. And so when we were reviewing, Nick and I, the previous audits, we noticed this line that had $275,000 in it from 2022 in an assigned fund balance. And it was through Nick's digging and working with Deb and checking with our auditors that we realized that it had never been used in 2022 or 23 and then 24. So it will be booked for the 2025 budget, which will take care of our revenue shortfall that I had previously reported. And that will be somewhere around $35,164 in our fund balance. The good news is that that takes care of that half of the problem. On the other side where we had the deficit shortfall, we have met as an administrative team with Nick Poole, and we truly are looking for every penny and every line. And so we were able to reduce our expenditure deficit to $290,144. Nick is still continuing to, he's going to meet with the administrators and review all of their lines, and he's hoping by mid-November to come up with a projection that we can feel more confident about. And from there, we'll decide which step to kind of, there are two solutions. One is that we're gonna squeak by, and that's what we're hoping will happen. But we wanna be sure that we can squeak by, and if we can't, then we are going to go with the second solution, which is to move the unexpended $318,000 in the capital improvements back to the general fund to help cover the budgeted shortfall. And that would require the school board to approve that. Then I would come to all of you and request that it be moved, and then it would still require a vote by the legislature. But the good news is either one of these solutions would mean no additional tax increase in this year, which I'm sure the taxpayers are extremely worried about.
Thank you. My question is the fund balance. Sorry. My question is the fund balance. Is look back and, pretty heavy, 2002, 23, 24. We're gonna be ending up at the end of the fiscal year 25 with $35,000. Isn't the fund balance to help just in case or just as a reserves? And if that's not, you're not gonna have any reserve left for emergency funds or anything of that. And since we're depleting that, then we're gonna be putting that back for next year after that. So pushing things down the line.
Well,
So this year, we're going to do taxes, but next year is gonna be rapidly hiking in, so.
yes, to some of that. So I just want to clarify that this is the fund balance that I'm predicting for when the auditors are finished from last year, what finished June 30th.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much we're going to have. We'll have somewhere about that amount. And then I don't know whether we'll have any savings for this year. But you're right in that normally people use part of their unexpended fund balance as a revenue source. And I do not see us being able to do that, right? Even if I take that, if we're correct, if it's somewhere around 35,000, I think that's less than 0.5%, right? And you want to be somewhere around 3%.
I understand.
So even if we squeak by and have a little savings this year, it would maybe put us up to 1%. So I would not be, when I'm building the new budget, I would not be using any of the undesignated fund balance as a revenue source. You can't over expend your expenditures by $1 without going back to the taxpayers. So it's not that when that is setting out there, if we had 200,000 right now there, we couldn't use it for an emergency. You can only use it if you go back to the taxpayers.
So would you be building that back into the new budget, be getting that, so you can get up like at 2% for the following year or 3%, would you try to get it back to square in the year 25-26 school budget?
For 26, 27, but you're correct, and I do not see myself using
Hey, for anybody still in the Zoom meeting, for anybody still in the Zoom meeting, they are rebooting the internet.
you're squeezing to the point that it's really not great for kids, right?
Right.
So I can tell you that right now, tonight, I can say that we're $566,000 that hasn't been budgeted correctly. And then that's not including, you know, our contractual obligations, right? So in our contracts, teachers get a raise next year, bus drivers get a raise, all of that. And so there's no way for me to know. I'm still trying to solve
I
this
understand.
year's problem. And so I haven't started doing any planning for next year.
I guess my question was more directed toward like, any sort of payout for the former superintendent.
That's been
salary
done in this
differences
year's
beyond-
budget.
What's that?
The payout for the previous superintendent is being absorbed.
This year?
You can see that on that line right there. It's somewhere, changing of superintendents, 24,000.
And that includes whatever payout he got as well as as I understand, an increase in salary for you. That absorbs that is includes in that
That's,
24,000.
yes, that's, you know, the district ended up $24,000 in the realm.
So moving forward, next year, there should be no implications.
From the previous superintendent.
Okay.
Dr. Foley, you mentioned in one of your possible solutions, the unexpended $318,614 in capital improvements. What are you eliminating to arrive at that number? What major projects?
Thank you. We're postponed by a week, the sprinkler system at the grade school. I think I had mentioned previously that there were, I think, a couple of phases, and phase one had been done.
Correct.
And then we had phase two to do, but we cannot do that phase right now because students are in school.
Until the end of the school year.
Right.
That was our understanding also.
Right, so we were probably going to start that project at the beginning, at the end of June or the beginning of July. What I'm proposing is that we just move that to the beginning of July, but Bruce, you're right. If we move that and absorb that in the current capital improvement plan, then there's something else that we're postponing, right? And so I don't know, I have not met with Joel to find out what that is. You know, I'm sure we have a 5-year plan of maintenance here, and I just don't know exactly where that would come from. But we're definitely doing the sprinkler system.
So we were incorrectly informed that the fire marshal was not going to issue a certificate of occupancy for the elementary school because the sprinkler system had not been installed, but gave us a buy because we had a plan in place and a timeline.
So I'm not privy to that conversations. But I will tell you that when I spoke to Joel, that because of the age of that building, it has a different code, right? So it's not required.
I think,
Oh, but
I think when there were updates performed between the connection, that it was overlooked, that it had to be updated and was not, I
okay,
believe.
so you may have, I'm
That's
happy,
correct.
That's correct.
I'm
That
happy,
was the reason for my question.
Yeah, so there was a issue.
And it was a dire situation
Yes.
from what we were told.
You can Google this in the KJ.
I am happy to research that and get back to you.
I'd appreciate it a great deal. Can I ask one more question circling back?
Yes.
Would it be possible for you before our next meeting, since we don't have any contractual agreement with Lion Electric, to start documenting, and the first part of the documentation is to document a letter to our congressman and senator, expressing our dissatisfaction, and we'd like them to come and take these buses back or something. I don't know, make a plant around them, or I'm not quite sure what to do.
Though you may recall that we've had some contact with both senators' offices as a result of our applying for congressionally delegated spending. And so we have contacts now both in Senator King and Senator. And what I'd often do is help to facilitate a conversation with Dr. Foley in those offices, because I think they'd be interested.
Absolutely. Any EPA grant purveyor?
Well, I'll let the senators lean on the.
I think it's important that we get that done, at least from a paper chain. You know, documentation.
So I'm hesitant to say that I'm going to do something before I discuss it with the school board. So this is a new, forgive me, but this is a new structure for me, working with a school board and a town council. So I just like ask for a little patience with that and just, you know, I'm happy to get back to you after talking to my board about next steps. But our plan was to, you know, see how the recall goes, get the buses back on the road and see how that goes. It doesn't mean that I'm not willing to research other pathways if this pathway doesn't work out.
Do you have one final comment, Andy?
We didn't step on any toes, or would it help you if the town council has to vote of no confidence in the future use of the electric buses?
I think it would complicate things tonight.
We'll pass on that, because
Thank you very much, Dr. Foley, for all of you excited for working with your school board, developing that relationship. It's very important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item 153, on September 23rd, we met with a couple of vendors that put in endorsements to our request for proposals for an LED conversion for the interior and exterior of our town buildings, park and decorative lighting. We did receive, those two vendors were from Oberon's and from Affinity. And I know we have Affinity is joining us on Zoom, and we can put on here in the audience. We just had some additional requests to take a look at some of your materials. So Affinity was also at the main municipal associations conference on Wednesday and Thursday last week. So I believe a couple of the council members were able to stop in and take a look at their equipment. And so today we are going to look at Oberon's equipment. So if you'd like to come up to the podium. Thank you for coming in.
I'm sure, good luck.
Thank you.
That's problem, like, what a
Fluffy and nice before.
Yes.
Well, first of all, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much to each and every one of you members to allowing us
Would you come a little closer to you?
Oops, can you hear me
You
better?
got a very soft voice, that's good.
I've been told otherwise, but I'll keep it. Well, thank you so much again for reconsidering our proposal. We have brought here are a few samples of our fixtures. We will start with those first. So, what I have my colleague holding up first is our 2x4 architectural cover. These are third generation lights. Don't worry, Shannon, we have adjusted.
I was gonna say,
So
I
it's
need my
coming up.
sunglasses.
These are the third generation fixtures, which means that they have the latest and greatest technology. They have a few features that I would like to review with everybody. So first of all, the lights have a toggle on themselves to adjust the color as well as wattage tunability. So the wattage can be tuned up or down based on the wattage preference. Additionally, they are designed by US engineers. So the R&D behind the fixture is done here in Massachusetts. And they come with integrated sensors, motions and daylight harvesting. The sensors are controlled, I'll speak louder. The sensors are controlled with a remote, which is very plug and play. I do want to pass that down. And the sensor essentially allows you to kind of point in a radius and set the settings for a few fixtures. There's no need to go log into an app and change the settings. We understand that for facilities where there are many people operating the lights or there are different buildings in one municipal location, it makes sense to go with a remote than an app-based sensor just because it's easier to adjust and it's just more practical for people to be using the remotes to set the motion and daylight harvesting. And just to clarify that motion, we mean that if there isn't an occupant, the lights can either dim down or completely shut off. And by daylight harvesting, what I mean is, imagine if there's a room with a lot of windows and there's a lot of natural light coming in, the lights will adjust in the lux level on their own. These are our 2x4 truffers. Last time there was a comment made for this room in particular that 4-foot linears are going to be installed. Our competitor mentioned that. That is in fact not the case. These architectural truffers are going to be installed in areas where you have ceiling tiles like this. And it's very convenient should there be any need for change later down the line. Imagine if it's like an office room with similar ceiling and someone comes in and it's like the light is too bright or they don't like the color, just pop open the ceiling and someone can just hop on a ladder and move the toggle instead of trying to navigate an app, try to figure out the login, try to navigate the user design and then do the changing, especially when there are multiple buildings involved in the LED lighting proposal. We have a couple of other fixtures to show here. There were comments about the optimal brightness level of our lighting fixtures, so we just want to point those out as well. Yeah. So the fixture on the left, the one kind of with the bubble on top, that is our 15-watt fixture, and the one on the right is our 31-watt fixture. Again, same scenario, they are wattage adjustable, color tunable, so if it's too bright or too dim, it is very easily adjustable. We design our proposals based on IES standards, which is Illuminating Engineering Society standards, and we take into account how much brightness the existing lighting fixtures already have. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, I have another remote. So majority of the fixtures are on one remote, the 2x4 is a different remote.
This is what it's from there.
However, the features on both remotes are exactly the same and they give you the exact same features. So you can,
So you can't turn down the dimness
you can,
But you
it is
can't,
wattage tunable.
but you can't change the color.
or the wattage.
The wattage and color is through a toggle, correct, yes.
Now, is every lighting's, like, if you do this in rooms, I mean, does everyone get a controller for that room?
No, so it depends on how many controllers you need. You can get 1 to 5 remotes per building. And normally what we do is we have a manual that comes with the remote. We kind of pull that out, put it in a Ziploc, and we attach that to a maintenance room or the main office room or whatnot. And our electricians, when they're doing the install, they set it up from the get-go and based on the town, like whoever is in the room, their preference. And then later down the line, should there need to be any changes, open up the manual, point the remote, and within a radius, so imagine if there's an office and there are 5 fixtures in the office, you kind of just stand by the door and then you can toggle all the lights based on all of that.
It's pretty straightforward, even by just playing with that also you will get to know.
Yeah, it's very intuitive, and the manual breaks down all the options.
It's very practical in a scenario where there are multiple people in a building, instead of just having one individual or just a couple of individuals know the in and out of the app. However, I do want to point out that if you do insist on the app, the same exact type fixtures can also be synchronized with that app, and we have done projects for apps before as well. So it depends on the town's need. The RFP that we have submitted is for remote based.
This has been used in the transfer station and a couple of public works buildings where it's kind of industrial environment. It's pretty bright, so don't want to blind your head.
The reason why it's so bright is obviously it's dependent on height, right? If you're putting this on 20-25 feet height, you want it to be bright enough so that the heat angle spreads all across.
You need to be brighter.
That is one more.
But pretty much all the fixtures come with a DLC premium rating. So DLC and ETL are the two US governing authorities over LED lighting products. All our fixtures are DLC premium authorized. So they have passed all the testing, such as lumen test, flicker test, burn test. All the tests are being done and they are qualified as per LM79 standards. DLC premium also means that we get higher lumen output per watt, so your lights are more energy efficient. There was also a comment last time about our products not being manufactured in the US. I do want to point out that our competitor, although their products are assembled in the US, their components are also purchased internationally from various countries across Asia, such as Tianzhou, Jiaowang, Guizhou, Top Band, Dongguan, Thailand, Thailand, to name a few. Regardless, what it ultimately comes down to is how the lights are certified. The lights are DLC premium certified, and we're offering a 7-year warranty. So there is a seal of approval from a US governing authority over the lights as a premium level approval, and they come with a 7-year manufacturer's warranty.
Let's see the warrant on the island.
I have a couple of other points that I also would like to address. Oberon is a turnkey provider, which means we do manufacturing, engineering, and installation is done in-house. The master electrician that we have through Oberon, he's actually an inspector in the town of Sandown in New Hampshire. So the master electrician that will be executing the installations, he is an electrical inspector in a New Hampshire town. And the other electricians that work with him, they're all local to the state of Maine. They live out of Old Orchard Beach, where we also have a local facility, an Oberon local facility. We have all in-house infrastructure. We have our own trucks, our man lifts, and because everything is done in-house, we ensure quality control in every step of the way, whether that be from manufacturing to engineering to installation, all being done in-house. We've all dealt with subcontractors and there won't be any, we're like, oh, we have to inform the other party to do the work. It is all, there will be one point of contact for the town, and the point of contact will ensure that the Oberon teams are executing the projects to the way that the town needs it. Our work will also be performed with full insurance and all town permits. I would also like to address the Efficiency Maine rebates. So there are 2 different rebate programs through Efficiency Maine. One is a large industrial program and one is a small business. As most of you know, Oberon was able to achieve about $45,000 in approved rebates from the state of Maine. In your packets, I have included the physical approvals received from the state, from Efficiency Maine. Now, there was a comment made last time that Efficiency Maine awards rebates to the cheapest or inferior fixtures. I urge the town council to kind of think about that. Efficiency Maine is an elected body. It's a trust that has been given the responsibility, the authority to allocate public funds. These are funds from the people who live in the state of Maine. Why would they be allocating funds to the cheapest or inferior quality fixtures? That is just simply not true. What they are doing is they are allocating rebates based on cost effectiveness of the program. So what does the term cost effective mean? That the energy savings that are being produced by the light fixtures justify the cost of the fixture itself. If the fixture is too expensive or the savings don't justify, the rebate is simply declined. I do want to pull up the actual click tool, which is a program that Efficiency Maine uses, to kind of just point out, what do I mean? So if you see here, I have 3 2x4 fixtures. The first one is a 200-watt fixture at a $200 cost. And it's easily being approved for a $163 rebate. The second line item, it is the same exact fixture with 24 watts. However, it is at a $300 price point and is being declined. The third option is a $300 fixture, however, the savings are more. It's a 15-watt fixture, and therefore it is being approved. So it is simply not true that the cheapest fixture gets approved. It is the fixture that is cost effective that passes the Efficiency Maine approval process. And just to point out, Oberon has completed over 200 projects in the state of Maine. These are local businesses, whether it be from small mom and pops to large facilities like Eldridge Lumber. We have completed those projects and we have the seal of approval from Efficiency Maine to do these projects. I have also sent an email out to the town council pointing out that the rebates have gone down as of October 1st. However, we have reached out to Efficiency Maine and the rebates are not going to change because they've already approved your rebates. So there's no change to our proposal so far. ROI of the projects. So the overall proposal ROI is 1 year and 3 months. That is starkly different from our competitors' ROI. There are a few reasons for this. The first being that Oberon's initial out-of-pocket cost is $80,000 less. Obviously, that takes into consideration when you're calculating the ROI, and that brings down the ROI timeline significantly. Secondly, we also have a section 179D tax credit as part of our proposal, and that is unique to Oberon's proposal. Section 179D is a government program. Even though the town of Winthrop is a tax exempt organization, Oberon has in-house engineering teams that perform the Section 179D credit, and the town council, despite being a tax exempt organization, is eligible to receive that credit per IRS rules. Our competitor during the last meeting firmly mentioned that a 5-year ROI is outstanding. Efficiency Maine, as an organization, also does not promote a 5-year ROI. For that, they have said that a 1 to 3 year ROI is what is acceptable. What I've included here are screenshots from the Efficiency Maine website for the case studies that they show on their own website. And as you can see here, it's a 2.3 year ROI or a 2.8 year ROI, which fits well within the 1 to 3 year timeline. I also reached out to Efficiency Maine, as you can see the email screenshot from Kristen Gill. Kristen is the EC, the energy consultant with Efficiency Maine, and she herself writes in her email that an ROI between 1 to 3 years is most common. Excellent. Timeline of install and manufacturer's warranty. We have put an estimated timeline of 2 weeks to complete the installation for all 8 buildings. Just to compare, we finished the Town of Sanford Memorial Gym install recently. That is also a municipal project. There were 301 lights and the installation timeline was just 4.5 days. And this is because we have in-house teams and we're able to provide quality install in the timeline that we are able to commit to. Just to give you another example, the Town of Sanford ROI was 1 year, 1.7 years. Oberon's fixtures come with a 7-year manufacturer's warranty. in the packet that I just shared with everyone, provided our manufacturer's warranty policy statement. And in that, I just wanted to do a apples to apples comparison with Oberon's manufacturer's warranty and our competitor's manufacturer's warranty. And I'll bring up 2 points. The competitor's manufacturer's warranty says that they will not cover the manufacturer's warranty won't be covered by the fixture for improper installation. Oberon is doing the installation in-house. Therefore, there's no question about improper installation because it is our own install. So of course, we are going to cover the warranty through if there was improper installation, which there won't be to begin with because we're doing the install ourselves and there are permits being pulled. Second of all, the competitor also mentioned that if there is a faulty fixture, there may be a shipping charge associated with sending back the fixture and receiving a new fixture. There's a prepaid shipping charge. Oberon has a local facility in Old Orchard Beach. There's no shipping charge. What I have shown here is a maintenance call is responded within 24 hours and addressed between 1 to 3 business days, depending on where the team is during the install. We have seen a less than 1% install rate. We have been in business for over 10 years now, and we still have repeat customers from the businesses that installed our lights over 10 years ago. I do want to just quickly bring up the recent Google review that we received from the town of Sanford. And I do urge the town to peruse these on your own. But the most recent one that we received is from the town of Sanford. I just want to read this out loud. Oberon did a great job for us. Our project was to retrofit the lighting in a large municipal building. The company was flexible and worked with us according to our schedule. The work was completed quickly and efficiently, and we liked the quality of their product. There was one aspect of their initial work that we didn't like, but they resolved the issue quickly for us with no additional cost. Everyone I worked with was friendly and professional. I would work with Oberon again without hesitation and will recommend them to others if the opportunity comes out. This is just one of, as you can see, 68 almost 5-star reviews that we have. And just keep going through these. You'll see most of the recent projects, about 99% of the recent ones are local main businesses. While I want the town to purely make the decision today on the merits of the proposal being offered, the products and services being offered, I would be remiss if I did not bring up a few points that I would consider as pitfalls during the RFP process. As the RFP states, the award of the project shall be made to the vendor that provides a responsive bid at the lowest cost to meet the needs and serve the best interests of the town. The town, which intends the project to be budget neutral, is the sole judge of its needs and best interests. Listen, I also don't want to be here. I don't want to be going through a reconsideration process. However, I do believe that the last meeting and the last decision made was unfair. Oberon has provided exactly similar, if not superior products at a lower price point. Oberon has a seal of approval from Efficiency Maine, which is the authority overseeing these projects. We have completed over 200 projects. It is not whether Oberon has done a project with the town of Winthrop before, or whether it is a level of comfort that we need. The purpose of an RFP is to solicit from vendors where they might be able to offer you different, if not better solutions, which is what Oberon is offering you. I also want to point out that last time when our competitor spoke, they had access to Oberon's very specific information when it came to model number and lumen output, which cannot be accessed with publicly available information. If they were accessing that through DLC websites, Oberon has over 40 listings. It would be very coincidental to pinpoint that exact same model number. The similar information from the competitor was not shared with Oberon. This gave the competitor an unfair advantage to speak about Oberon products during the last meeting, which Oberon did not have. I also want to point out that the memo presented last week was highly biased. I think that a better approach maybe for future RFPs would be to just have a pros and cons of each proposal so that everything is just and fair, where each proposal, whether they're the top two or top three proposals, you are sharing pros and cons instead of one paragraph with just cons about a proposal and a couple of different paragraphs about all the pros of a different vendor. Maybe that's just a more just approach in my eyes. The cons that were listed out in the memo, those were verified many times over emails and calls, and we have tried to follow up many more times without responses from the town, unfortunately, which is what has led me here. And again, mind you, please, I do want you guys to make a decision purely based on merits of our products and services. However, I do need to use this platform to raise my voice. Lastly, if all of this is still not convincing to the town, I do also want to extend that Oberon is happy to offer a performance bond for our products and services.
Affinity had talked about recessed lighting last time. And I don't think you guys mentioned it. What's the difference in the cost and how much does that cost?
Lighting, I believe, if I went over the, try to understand what you're saying. I believe what they were suggesting is, you see the 4-foot linear lights?
Right.
That is what we're going to install in places like this, which just does not make sense. Why would we do that? The 4-foot 2x4 proffer.
Right.
Those are the type of architectural fixtures that go in areas like this.
He said this is the one we are going to install, but we didn't even mention the.
Right. The recessed ones.
Surface from this comes outside the surface, this is a recess goes inside. So this is what we are going to install over here, but however, last time when the presentation was happening, it was mentioned that Peter is going to install these kind of lights here.
Which is just not true. We've done so many projects, we would not do this if we were installing this.
What we have mentioned,
The difference between the lumens on all these, is there any difference
So
on the products?
there are different products available, right? And
Right.
what we do is we design our proposal to match the optimal brightness for each room. So for example, for this room, we turned on that light with 24 watts, and that was well suited for a room like this, depending on the height of the room. So there are IES standards that companies
Okay.
follow, and based on that, we design the optimal lumen output for different rooms.
that is to have a ambience of lighting in the particular room and what purpose it is being used for. You don't want a, warehouse light here to be very bright in this, you want a nice environment like this, a cozy kind of. Nice,
Yeah.
Additionally, efficiency main also looks at lumen outputs per watt input, and our fixtures are cost effective and they're passing the lumen test, which is why they have offered us the rebate as well.
Periodically, this fixture are called, they check, they go and they go to the places where they have installed, also they check. And just checking and always, otherwise we would have not been in this market.
Any questions on council?
Great presentation.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
I guess,
Of course,
I'm looking at all the numbers again.
yes.
Everything's on paper, we'll get it all over. What is the total estimated cost out of pocket on your proposal? Yeah, so I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right number.
If you look at the all buildings project summary page, the net out of pocket is $46,950.33.
That's without savings calculated. Right.
This is your net out, like upfront out of pocket.
That's our upfront, but because
That's what we would have to.
that's what we did on the, because I noticed you had some estimated, I mean, everything's estimated, I mean,
Well,
that's
we-
guessing, so.
No, we already estimated because this was a proposal given before efficiency main approved the rebate.
Okay.
We have the rebate approval stamp.
Understood.
Yes,
So all those estimated,
they passed with this year.
Okay. That's helpful, thank you.
Of course.
I was gonna say, the scope of work, to get those, quotes. Now, were you saying that you had some difficulty
I'm sorry.
with the scope of work to decide the hours, the working hours, as far as it, like, the
Yes.
building or different areas? Do we have all of that, those numbers?
We have all those numbers here, however. The RFP did not include annual bills, and the RFP did not include the hours of operation of the buildings. So what Oberon standard procedure is when the auditor goes to audit the building, whoever is showing the building around, they just ask like, hey, what are the hours of operation of this building? The only building in question for the savings is the Annabessa Cook building. We were not informed that it was a storage facility where lower hours of operation. So we took standard 8 hours, and the savings are higher than the calculation, the input into the savings calculation is higher because we estimated a higher hours of operation for the building.
That's just for one building which was, later on that, it is not operated that much.
However, the inputs that we have taken, they're all outlined in pages 9 through 15 of our proposal. So if you want to change the input, we are more than happy to provide that too.
And can you discuss your performance bond?
Right, so it is a bond that basically says that we will perform based on the proposal that we've given you, which is for the different products that we are offering and the different services.
And so say at 1 year and 3 months, the return on investment is not realized, what would that have effects?
So he's the engineer who did the audit, and he is, that is his field.
The performance bond can only be given on wattage reduction. Again, the input that we took to give 1 year and 3 months payback is based on usage of this area, this amount of time now. So to come to a direct answer, correct answer, accurate, it's very complex, but we can safely say that this is what you will see the return like in 1 year, 3 months. But again, the performance bond is mostly given on what the wattage of the fixture that we're proposing is going to be used, and whether the sensors are working properly or not, or the services that we are offering installation wise, that is performance bond.
Okay. And then what, I guess, what happens or in the past, in your industry, I guess, say that the return on investment is not realized within that time frame?
So, Aaron, the return on investment, just to give you an idea of how it is calculated, it takes into account the wattage reduction. So apples to apples comparison. What is the wattage at the building right now? What is the future wattage? That wattage reduction times number of hours used times the electric rate, which is not set by us, it's obviously set by CFE. We cannot control the hours of usage, we cannot control CFE rates. The only thing we can control is the hours or the wattage reduction. So what I can give you in writing is that, hey, you will definitely get this wattage reduction. Tomorrow, if you turn around and if you're turning on the lights for 15 hours, whereas they were only running for 5 hours, obviously your bill will go up, which will drive up the ROI. However, your initial investment is $80,000 less. It cannot possibly drive up the ROI so much that it will be that exorbitant. It will never go to 5 years because your initial investment is much lower. If that makes sense.
Yes.
That is the best way is the fixture to fixture. That is what is the existing fixture's wattage, what it has been replaced with. So that is obvious, you can see from both the fixtures. That is black and white.
Have a question from the audience?
The question.
Yeah.
Originally, when you designed, part of the heat load and the air conditioning load was the wattage of oil. The question I have is, do you have a sense you're reducing, let's say 40 watts to 8 watts? What impact does that have on the heating cost? I know air conditioning is going to go down. Heating cost, what is the additional cost for heating because you're reducing the wattage on the lights?
Just to repeat for people online, so they can hear. So what you're asking, Mr. Dory, is what is the impact on the heating costs if you're reducing the wattage?
Yes, LEDs do dissipate heat well and produce heat very minimal. So definitely the air conditioning costs are going to go down. Same way, the heating costs are gonna go up. They are gonna balance it out. There will be increase in heating costs, but not significant.
You know what it is.
No.
Also, these are third generation LED lights. The heat dissipation is it's, they've gone through different iterations. The heat dissipation is designed to be, spread out evenly. Before fluorescence, maybe like if you just walk past the light, you'll like feel like warmth. That does not happen with LEDs. They're more advanced. So I don't know the specific impact on the heating cost, but as my colleague mentioned, cooling goes down, heating might go up, like, that level, that percentage might break even.
You have a question?
Yeah, this might be more for the town council than for you yourself, but why are we considering investing in the storage building out on Annabescook Road? We don't know the use of it. We don't know if we're gonna continue to own it. We don't know if we're even gonna be allowed to use it in any particular form, because we haven't heard back from the DP yet. But why?
Believe that we are going to.
But I mean, are the savings worth it if all we're doing is parking trucks in there?
I think, yeah. It's, how many light fixtures?
It is 633 light fixtures.
In the Annabescook building.
And that's, right here.
So I mean, that
81.
overall is pretty good,
Well, it's transportation.
and it would impact their
124.
rebate.
120, 58 fixtures, correct.
So these, if we sell it or lease it, it's just gonna make it that more valuable, if it's set the right, things that lighting. My opinion. I would have been in from that.
Yeah. Not this one. Just an introduction over here about whether changing out the lights or not. So, we have worked in different states. We have already seen in efficiency, like Vermont state, that they have already phased out all the rebates for LED lighting products. Just because, fluorescents are being phased out as well, so there is no need to incentivize people to move to more efficient lighting where they have to inspire. So in future, if you're looking to upgrade that building, there won't be any incentives available. So better to do it at the moment, but the incentives are pretty good.
And if you saw in my email last October 1st, they've already gone down an additional 10% as compared to this proposal here.
Any other questions?
Good.
All right, Farhal and crew, I really want to thank you for taking the time back out here.
Thank you for giving the opportunity.
Yeah, presenting materials with us. I do appreciate that. I do appreciate you being forward about the October 1st changes to the rebates. It's great that you reached out and secured that. Can we get a copy of these slides?
Oh, absolutely. I'll send that over. Should I just email it to Anthony?
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So are we gonna consider?
We still got another one.
Right, once after that, are we gonna table this?
Probably.
Yeah,
We can
okay,
Get that.
Okay.
Thank you very
so
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Well,
Thanks.
Oh, one other question, real quick, just for a color temperature, it's the change the color temperature.
Yes, for all fixtures, they're color tunable. They just have a toggle, so if you don't like the color that even we set in the beginning, just pop open a ceiling tile and toggle it up.
I think I remember that. Thank you.
There's
areas where there was a ghost meeting with the computers. You put them, they're sitting in the, these are underlit now. So when they get a right away, very bright light, they sometimes some people get. They also I have heard it in the past.
I'm on this.
So you can, so that's, you can lower the voltage as well as you can bring it to the warm white. So you get a cozy kind of feel and you can work on. So that is why the third generation.
Thank you.
One other quick question. Sorry, I
Good.
keep dragging.
No, go for it.
It's struggling. The more you ask questions, we are happy to answer.
Yes.
So you have to toggle for the wattage and you have to toggle for the color.
Yes.
But you can, what do you do with the remote is the range of motion of
The motion sensor and the daylight harnessing. So those are the two things that are controlled by the remote. The reason why we don't do remotes for wattage and color tunability is that we used to do that and it just kind of became a rainbow in the office where different people would want different colors and different wattages. It just became inconsistent. So when our electricians are doing the install, we ask whoever is using the office, hey, is this okay? This is what has been approved. Are you comfortable with this light? And we set it up as per that. It's kind of to limit the number of times people play around with electrical lighting. So
There's really no reason to switch it on a
exactly.
day-to-day basis.
Exactly, and the remote, it essentially controls motion. And as I mentioned, it just makes more sense to do a remote in a facility like this. And, you know, many people, it's, you know, ambulance station, it's the police station, it's different buildings, and you don't want one person being in charge of the app. You don't know which app to install, you don't know how to navigate the UX. Yes, you know, they will set it up in the beginning too, but there will be changes down the line, and it's easier with a more practical solution that, hey, do you want to change the lights? Go to the maintenance room, there's a remote, you just change it instead of scrolling through an app, trying to navigate it all.
But once you change the lights and get like the motion set, say in a room like this,
Mhm.
you get the motion set in a room like this, you get the daylight harvesting set to what you want. You don't have to, every time you know, there's no
You don't
reason
have to.
to mess
Absolutely
with it
not.
after that.
No, you don't,
In a room such as this, I mean, you're not gonna be changing it day-to-day usage.
you are not, correct.
Anything else? All right,
No.
thank you.
I appreciate it, thank you so much.
And I believe we also have a representative for Infinity on Zoom. Steve? Oh, Steve, I think you're muted.
Good evening. Thanks for having me remote. I am convalescing shoulder surgery. So appreciate the fact that I was able to come in online and look forward to answering any questions that you have. I do understand that several of you were able, I think the chairperson was there, and also Mr. White were able to come over to MMA. As most of you know, we were one of the 3 elite sponsors, which we are on an annual basis for the Maine Municipal Association, big supporters of MMA. So Bangor Savings, our solid waste partner, Casella, and Affinity were the elite sponsors this year. So I hope you enjoyed your visit to our booth and had an opportunity to meet with my team and my colleagues to get a complete demonstration of the lighting system.
I'll just say yes, thank you. It was good to get out there and take a look at the switches that you have out there, I know Aaron, you did get out there as well.
Yeah.
Similar.
Yeah. Yes, I had, and I had, you know, a good discussion with the team members that you had their presence. I think they stayed a little bit later for me to get there, so that was very appreciated. Thank you.
Good, thank you. So what questions can I answer for you?
Steve, this is Aaron White. Can you give a little bit of a rundown, just because we also didn't have a couple council members present at your last presentation, just kind of do a breakdown of just a financial summary. Do you have that in front of you?
Sure, I certainly can. Thank you for asking, Mr. White. You know, I'll back up just a moment. You know, Affinity LED has been in the LED business since the incubation stages of the LED industry. This is back in 2011 when I started doing research on this potential industry. Traveled the world, meeting at trade shows with vendors, traveling to Strategies in Light, going to investor forums, understanding like what's the opportunity for this technology. And when I made a decision to start this business, to found this business in 2012, finally, the dream was always to bring manufacturing back to the US. In fact, not just manufacturing to the US, but back to New England, which is the hub of the original of US manufacturing. And we're pretty proud to do that with US veterans building the product. I think as you also already know, Affinity LED, we are municipal specialists. We have been doing municipal installations for well over 10 years, hundreds of municipalities, and certainly that includes throughout Kennebec Valley. that have enjoyed the installations and savings, certainly. And let's move into the numbers. The total cost of the project is $174,000. We will talk about the the incentives, which are now confirmed at 48,000. The project net is 126,000, and we have calculated $26,000 a year in savings. There were lots of questions brought up by our competitor about the numbers, about what is a reasonable return on investment, what Efficiency Maine says should be a reasonable return on investment. I am not clear if Efficiency Maine is saying 1 to 3 years on a municipal complex, which municipal operating hours are much lower than commercial operating hours. We do plenty of commercial business as well, but municipalities in general, because they work on limited operating hours, with a few exceptions, generally will have longer returns on investment. And I would, I think it would be safe to say if we tried to poll some information from, for example, the folks at Municipal Leasing Consultants that probably represent 90% of the municipal leases written in New England, what the municipal leases look like in terms of return on investment. And I am certain that they would not be looking at 4 and 5 year municipal leases on tax exempt municipal lease purchases. It's just a different type of an operating environment. And returns of 1 to 3 years, we see in industrial complexes, we see in places like Milligan factories down in Salisbury, Massachusetts, where, you know, a 500,000 square foot facility is operating 3 shifts a day and closes 14 hours a week. We get 1.5 year returns on investment. Outside of that, it's just not practical. And I'm talking about experience from Keene, New Hampshire up to Deer Island, in every direction also. So we certainly have, you know, there's sort of like the smell test and, you know, a low return on investment in terms of operating years to get your investment back. It just doesn't pass the smell test. And I can certainly offline go into more details if you'd like. So we're at a 5-year simple payback. We are very confident in the $26,000 a year savings, and we always meet our savings numbers. And here's the challenge on when you talk about, you know, are there ways to write performance contracts or performance bonds? For a performance bond actually generally is tied together with a payment bond, and a performance bond, which certain municipalities, certainly, you know, in high value projects, we're providing performance bonds. Those are related to whether a contractor does the work or not. And if there is a cost because a contractor walks away from the job or doesn't do the right work, that you can call in this performance bond to bring in another contractor at no cost to you to finish the work. It protects you. It's your insurance policy. So generally, that's what a performance bond is. The guarantee of savings is also very, very challenging in any type of environment because you've got 1 meter generally. And 1 meter, there's no separation of lighting from the rest of the way your building operates. So you've got to be really, really confident in how those energy models are calculated to be sure that it makes sense, that the savings is reasonable, because it's very difficult to verify, very difficult. You change your HVAC system, you put in other type of electronic equipment, you change your operating hours. Of course, all those things impact it. What we can be comfortable with is that a conservative energy model, you will actually you'll absolutely deliver on the savings. And I think, you know, for us, when we build our energy models and in our proposals, you have line by line, light by light information on those energy models. You will see that operating hours is not general across a building either. That may be in a you know, you walk into a, you know, Home Depot and the lights get turned on in the morning at 5 a.m. and every light in the front room and the back room is on until they close the business. That's really easy. That's every light in the place, every room, every space, every bathroom, the lights are on. The difference in, particularly in municipal buildings, K-12 schools, which we do a lot of K-12 work as well. The difference is that you have different operating hours between the closets, storage areas, hallways, offices, conference room, stairwells. There are different operating hours. And so it's not just a matter of coming up with a general operating, hours and saying, I'm going to multiply this by KW savings, KWH savings, a KWH cost and operating hours per year. It's just that formula doesn't work. It takes more, a deeper dive and a scrub of every single building. And that's what we do. We take pride in being able to do that. I mentioned to you last time that, we consider these to be conservative, these estimates. And when I say conservative, I say with confidence, we always meet our savings, and we hope and expect that you will be in the 10, 15, or 20% higher in terms of your savings. But there's no guarantee. There's no way to guarantee that. So these energy models were developed with Eversource engineers. Eversource happens to be in the home state of New Hampshire, the biggest utility, and we cut our teeth on smart lighting and municipal projects with Eversource. And two of some of the finest engineers that we ever worked with, two folks that have now retired, Gary Lacoste and Russ Hunt, have left Eversource, helped us to develop these energy models, because what they were paying, when you're getting a rebate in most places, when you get a rebate, KWH, you're buying energy reduction, is what the trust or NH Saves or the utilities are paying out. And they're reporting that to the PUC. So they certainly, when they pay that money out, they certainly want to make sure that they're reporting the numbers and getting it. Eversource was a little bit more strict than most utilities in that they had to deliver on the savings they were buying. So it's very conservative, and we feel, extremely confident, 110% confident that we'll deliver on that. Total return, across the lifetime of the product is $500,000. And when we talk about $500,000, cumulative savings is over $500,000 across the 20-year lifespan. The lights are rated longer than that. We use to support DLC qualification. We use, models that have been developed by Department of Energy and Energy Star to do those calculations for lifetime of our fixtures. And they're all done through algorithms, of course, because you can't test lights for 27 or 28 years. So we always have that conversation to say, you're making a decision on lights that are going to be in these buildings for the next 20 years. So you have to make good decisions in terms of what you're putting in there. So over the lifetime, the return is $500,000. The cumulative savings is $500,000. And that is a cumulative return on investment of almost $400,000, $384,000. So the product, yes, should be expected to, that's the wonderful thing about LED efficiency, is it's one of those capital investments that pays you back. But it will not pay you back in a year and a half or two. It just doesn't happen. We don't see it out there. I can't tell you one single project in hundreds of municipalities. And I appreciate the zeal of our competitor to determine that based on the information that's being calculated by Efficiency Maine. But I do not see that as a return on investment for municipalities. I also do not see that the savings are properly calculated for a host of reasons that we just talked about. Anabessa-Cook was a perfect example. Where in the proposal, it was shown to you that you were going to save about $6,500. Sorry, I'm trying to negotiate with my left hand, and I'm not very good at this, being a lifetime righty, because I'm in a sling and bandaged up. So I believe the Anabessa-Cook annual savings were presented to you for in the range of $6,500, and that represents more than 50% that what you're spending on electricity in that building. So that's just an example. Some of the other places that we had concerns, Anabessa-Cook was actually estimated by our competitor at $6,700 when you're spending less than $4,500 on electricity. So it's a little bit difficult. Let's say that's an exception, given that it's 50% more savings than the town spends on energy in that building. 70% of the lights that are being proposed for the town office are those linear products. While they may not be going in that room, they're not going to be the 1x4s that if you look up above your heads, that's 1 foot by 4 foot fixtures. There's a different form factor coming in, but the linear product that is being proposed, 70%, that's 130 out of 185 fixtures going into your building at the town office, are rated at 1950 lumens and actually tested at 1920 lumens. Those are 15-watt fixtures. As I mentioned to you prior, look, we install municipalities every week, every day. And while I commend my competitors for getting a great review from the city of Sanford, I believe that's the only municipality that they have done. So congratulations on a great installation. But that's the only municipality I believe they have experience with. We do these every day. And we know that 1920 lumens is not going to, that's at full 100% brightness. So these have to be turned up all the way. There's no way to high-end trim these, underdrive them, sustain the lifetime of them. These are going to be running full, and that is how they've been proposed. We're going to install 26-watt fixtures. They're going to be high-end trimmed down to 70%. Then we take into account occupancy, daylight harvesting, potential scene setting, which we'll talk about in just a moment. And this does not include, these savings don't include manual dimming. I appreciate the remotes. I haven't seen a remote, quite frankly, proposed to a customer since I've started this company. I have not seen a remote. Network lighting controls, and you can look on DLC, network lighting controls is a very, very big topic. It was also a big topic, I believe, that the town manager, Mr. Wilson, will tell you that it was a big topic at Maine Municipal Association also when talking about community resiliency and sustainability. Luminaire level lighting controls, network lighting controls that have, programmed capabilities is the standard of the industry. But you don't dim lights by grabbing the remote. You change the volume on your TV is how you use a remote. We're going to put switches, smart switches that have been programmed into these rooms. So manual dimming up and down doesn't require a change in behavior to grab a remote somewhere in the building because there may be one in the next office. Can I borrow that for a moment? I don't even know how that works, but that's not the point. The point is app programming gives you, first of all, 128 K-bit encryption. There's no way to override or be able to mess with the lights. It gives you the ability to make all types of adjustments across an array of type of settings. Once we've done it, generally it's going to be set it and forget it, which I believe Mr. White had talked about with our competitor. It generally will be set it and forget it. But if you need any additional programming, we'll either train somebody on how to use this app. It's not difficult. We use apps every day. Or we'll come up and program it yourself. Many of our clients are like, hey, we'd like to change the scenes that have been set up for the town council room. Can somebody help us? We'll walk you through it and it'll take about 3 minutes to do that, which brings to another point. In most of these spaces, you will have these smart switches, and in the smart switch, a perfect example, I'm looking at the photograph, the picture of all of you. It's hard to see that screen with all the lights on. We have the capability, and we use it all the time, for you to be able to have a scene that will dim the lights. Just at the touch of a button, there'll be a program scene that says, white screen is being used. Let's dim the lights in front of the white screen to give a better visibility to those in the room. We do that in classrooms. We do it in conference rooms. We do that in auditoriums. We do that in gyms for introductions to basketball teams or, volleyball teams. We do scenes for conference rooms. Those are all really important. The most important thing is customization is very important, but most important, you want to have the capability to squeeze the sponge even more and save more money by making those adjustments. And this is what we do as part of our follow-up. This is a lifetime partnership, which we already have with the town of Winthrop. And we're looking forward to, we hope that you see that Affinity is and why Affinity is the leader in municipal space for lighting.
I see this is Aaron White. I'll say, when I did look at the displays, my personal preference is definitely style with the smart switch. And I say that because having worked in the EMS service here, when we first acquired that building, the lighting was absolutely insane. There was tons of fluorescent lighting, and as a service, we worked there 24 hours a day. And so in the evening, it became problematic. We were transitioning from our day room into having to go and type up reports and stuff. So the solution there being pulling out every other fluorescent light and actually opening up a wall to let some natural light. I'm sure it costs a lot of money. So I do appreciate the need for the adjustability. And I have a sneaking suspicion the PD and the dispatch areas would as well, as they typically dim their lights in the evening to assist with their use of the computers. Now, the only problem I have, I guess, is how do you gap an $81,546 difference? Where does the value come in for your product and your proposal for the council to say, well, then we're willing to spend upwards of $81,546, which calculates like $16,309 per year over a 5-year period, which kind of wipes out savings. Can you discuss, how we're trying to explain why we should approve your project versus that based on the savings that we would see?
Absolutely. Thank you. This is a really good question. Thanks for the comment on controllability. It's very important to have personal spaces available to have controllability. And look, we're creatures of habit, and the toggle switch isn't going to work anymore. And that's what you are currently having and have the potential to still continue to use with a remote, or to have smart switches to be able to make changes like you're used to. Walk over to the light switch, raise and lower the lights, go into a different scene if that is what is programmed in, potentially for nighttime dispatch. I can tell you personally that I agree with you. I see that a lot. And we recently, did the Kittery Town buildings and the police department, which is in the town offices. The dispatch room is, the lights were set at like 15% of their overall brightness. And they wanted scenes to be able to bring them up, but regular settings were really, really low because they want to be sitting in front of their screens. And it's sort of a Zen type of environment where they're working and focused on the dispatch work. So let's talk about cost. First of all, let's talk about the original costs, because I've already discussed with you concerns on savings. So now we're just going to talk about, if you'll allow me to talk about the overall cost, and let's talk about the efficiency main portion, supplementation of the rebates. The difference in the cost, our proposal is $174,000 with all the features, all the equipment, American built, US veterans, smart switches, programmable, not different products using different remotes, etc. Everything is all programmable the same because it's click connected by Affinity LED and it's our app. So that's $174,000. Our competitor, and by the way, that's at 602 fixtures. Feel pretty confident. If we missed, we missed, but that if you actually have 31 additional fixtures, this is a contract for your buildings. If in fact you do have those 31 additional fixtures, and our count is inaccurate, we're going to install 633 fixtures for the contract without additional cost. We feel very confident when we go out and audit, but again, most importantly, we complete these buildings. So at 602 fixtures at $174,000, that is an average cost. If you let me start here, at $289 a fixture all in. That's lighting, controls, installation, and everything else. Complete turnkey service, soup to nuts, beginning to end. Our competitor gave you a proposal for $150,070 for 633 fixtures. That all in is $237 a piece. So there's the difference in the top line is the value of the total project, all services combined at which equals $52 a fixture, all in, all combined. Now let's go over and talk about what Efficiency Maine's review was. I mentioned to you before, and I stand by it, and this is proof of the pudding, that Efficiency Maine is a very challenging system. We have to build new energy models that follow the CLIck tool that my competitors showed you. And the CLIck tool is filled out with Efficiency Maine making certain assumptions. And when those assumptions are made, the cost goes down, the total cost of the project. And let me give you an example. Our project at $174,239 was fully submitted to Efficiency Maine. Efficiency Maine returned to Mr. Wilson to say, these 602 fixtures, the total cost of the project is $104,000. That's how they calculate it. Any other utility would say, you've received a proposal for $174,000 from Affinity LED. Efficiency Maine has turned in documents to you because that's the way the CLIck tool works. It's not an energy model. It says it's $104,000 and that the all-in cost of our project is $172.66. About 60% is what's on record at Efficiency Maine with an accurate submission, the way they look at it, and it's just different. So that's 60% of the actual project value. Our competitor presented a $150,000 project to you, which is what you're going to write the check for. The costs came back from Efficiency Maine that this total project is $59,294, all in. You divide that by 600, that's 40% of the actual quote of the project. You divide that by 633 fixtures, that's all in an average of less than $94 a fixture. We know what the trades make. Electrical contractors are paid well, as they should be. Electrical contractors are paid well, and unless they're doing some kind of speed work or bringing in a massive crew, at $94, that tells me that the average value of the fixture to Efficiency Maine they look at is probably somewhere under $50, including controls and remotes and all other services, including solid waste removal. Everything else, it doesn't click, it doesn't jibe. So this is where I mentioned to you in the past, and I stand by it, and I would do it. And I do this, have the same conversation with the GDS folks, which actually are the executors of Efficiency Maine. Our competitor mentioned a name of a person at Efficiency Maine. They actually work for GDS Associates, who is a very good organization that's an outsourced resource for Efficiency Maine. The trust doesn't actually do these calculations. So am I sort of showing you sort of like the challenges that your project officially on record at Efficiency Maine by our competitor is $59,000. Your project by Efficiency Maine with me is $104,000. With my company is $104,000. While they don't match, our competitor's submission assumes some type of lower cost that is 40% of the original proposal. Granted, mine is 60% of the original proposal, but there's a huge disparity there. And the incentives go up based on calculated savings, question mark, that are presented and the costs that are presented in the CLIck tool. While I will not question anything in terms of submission, I will tell you this. Affinity LED We work very carefully on our energy models. We work very carefully on our click tools. And if there is a way for us to, fool the system, it's not going to happen in my company, because we're going to sleep at night, and it's not going to happen in my company. We're going to make sure that we are presenting the numbers to our utilities and to our customers exactly as they are, because I have to sleep at night and my name is on this company. And I hold that as the most important thing in my business. So I, appreciate all the questions that you're asking and appreciate the opportunity. The one last piece I want to talk about is just the warranty. Warranties are written by lawyers. Ours was. Because you have to have a warranty statement, and every warranty says limited liability, limited warranty. It doesn't matter what it is. You go buy a car, it says a limited warranty. There's something in there. They're written by lawyers. I think Mr. Wilson will tell you from the 2 communities that he's worked with us, and, scores of, town folks and superintendents across northern New England will tell you there's never been a question if there's a failure in a product. Never been a question. And it's very rare, because as I mentioned to you, not only we're not opening the container and taking finished product out and shipping it to you. These products are assembled in my factory. They are bench tested by my veteran technicians. They are high pot tested, which juices them to try and make the drivers fail and snap. It's a UL requirement. Actually, it's an ETL and UL requirement. And then they are burned for 24 hours before checking them again and then packing them. And then they are ready to be installed. So we have very high confidence in our product. And if there is an issue, you will never hear from that paper in the proposal that there's a concern about my product. One last piece was about I hate to go down these roads, but there was a comment about some kind of unfairness because of the wattage and the lumens being shared that were not in the proposal. On page 38 of the original proposal, which is public information that was presented to you by our competitor, the wattage and the lumen in the spec sheet was listed. So all we did was analyze a proposed package that was presented publicly to the town of Winthrop. So I just wanted to clarify that comment, because that's just where we get the facts. And I certainly stand by, we are somewhere in the 600 to 700 lumens short if you put a 15-watt fixture into your town offices where existing fixtures exist. We're going to burn probably, before, after high-end trimming and before daylight harvesting and before occupancy, we're going to burn probably at 18.2 watts, but our 18.2 watts puts out almost 1800 lumens, 2800 lumens. So it's a little bit different math, and the ability to raise the lighting changes your energy model. If in fact, what I'm stating to you, this concern is correct, you've got to get up in the ceiling, of course, and hit toggles on every light somehow. And that throws your energy and savings concerns, about the differences into a little bit of turmoil. So how are we doing?
Any questions from the council?
No question.
No.
I just have one quick, not even a question, it's just going through this and listening to these 2 presentations tonight, it appears to me that what we may want to do is to maybe go back and look at the RFP and say, I look at some of the features of Affinity and well, they're great and would be great maybe in this room and the other office, but all of the capabilities that they're having and we're paying for, we don't need it at the transfer station. We don't need it at the public works garage. We don't need it in a Vesco road. Maybe it would be wise to go through and say, kind of spec out those particular buildings this is what we're looking for here, this is what we're looking for here, and get more suited to what we actually need. That's my thoughts.
So I heard you talk some numbers, I was kind of waiting for some numbers to come in. About project costs versus the rebates and warranty. Are you able to secure the rebates currently, just as they did? I guess that, so they're the same. What are the rebates for you right now? Because I don't from the proposal.
So I think what you're asking is, there is a concern that rebates will be going down. And
Correct.
will we be able to hold the rebates, after October 1st?
Correct.
What I can tell you is the Efficiency Main Trust and those who are entrusted in doing the work for them, which is GDS Associates, will not play favoritism, certainly, and should not be playing favoritism. So if our competitors have already ensured that rebates will be secured, then we certainly collectively have the same expectation. Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else? I think Roy made an excellent point, and we moved down to item 154, consideration of appropriating the town's out-of-pocket costs to converting its facilities. We can also table this and go back to what we need to do. We have a community resilience partnership forum at the end of the month. So if that's something we also want to do, and we can allocate that pending the community input, of course.
Ms. Chair, may I interrupt just for a moment? I just went back to take a look. Your council person who had mentioned the transfer station, just for an example, the transfer station, there's only 20% of those fixtures where appropriate have been designated to have smart features. We look at every facility and make sense and determine whether it makes sense or not, depending on the type of lighting. So out of the 70 fixtures at the transfer station, we've got 15 of them in appropriate spaces that are designated for that.
Thank you, Steve.
Yes.
I've got a question.
You have questions?
Okay,
Okay.
at least in the, over on, I caught that we're talking about replacing the streetlights. But at least in the Oberon, we're talking about replacing the streetlights. Didn't we do that a few years ago?
You certainly did, sir. Those are our streetlights. We did those for you. Yes, you've got network street lighting installed townwide. Yes.
So Andy, there's still some street lights along Main Street in the part of the village that are not, that are LED. So acorn shaped bulbs at the top of the poles, those are not LED. So those are included as part of the RFP.
Okay, question answered. Thank you.
Sure.
I move the table, the motion, on item 154, resolution 2024-09.
Second.
All right. So a motion to table item 154, resolution 2024-09. We have a motion by Bruce and a second by Roy. All in favor of the table? All in favor? We want to thank our two vendors for coming in and presenting. We really appreciate your time, and we appreciate the materials and the opportunity to come in and take a look at everything too.
Thank you all for your time as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invite. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank
Thank
you.
Let's get started. Item 155 is discussion and consideration of a proposed updated zoning map. I do believe we have Richard Dory and Donna Keats from our planning board, and they were a part of the subcommittee as far as this. And this was able from one of our June meetings.
So the development area is expanded.
Just to go over the additional regarding the origin of the data that was used to create the natural resources plan. Richard?
And we have Joel with us and Mark with us as well.
Yes.
And just quickly, some 15 months ago, John and I were assigned the planning board chair to work on converting, work with Joel, convert the maps, which you can see on on these, areas of fairly rough condition. And the objective was to convert and get all that onto a digitized copy, which Joel helped us with, created. With that, there's a period of time where the board was reviewing it and, deciding, to go forward with it. We also posted it on the town website for review by the public, for feedback, in case of several weeks. And now we're asking, the council to, approve that, get it posted on the town website, turn this around the word, but more structurally, with the intent that the public has access to it on an ongoing basis, to look at issues, in particular, and solve those issues. We met today, Don and I met today with Mr. Weymouth and walked his property, looked at his concern, and intended to share that with Joel to get a determination how it was created and whatnot. Again, the process we went through, three of us, was to take the maps and go through page by page, several hours we spent on it, and getting the digitized copy as correct as possible relative to the map. And we did that, like I said, several hours. And the process, that was the process leading up to what we want to do now. The intent is to, again, have it available in electronic copies so that people have access to it, can bring forward issues and solve issues relative to that. Questions?
I'll start off. Yes. So my question is, where do we, this is for Joel, where do we get the boundaries for the resource protected areas?
Hey, Joel, will you come to the microphone, please?
The resource protection areas are basically defined through the shoreline zoning language. So the difference, I think the issue that's going to come up is because the maps that are so old, the original drawn ones, have different delineated wetlands, for example, than the new ones. So the DEP determines what wetlands, which wetlands are qualified to be covered by shoreline zoning. So the digital data that's now out there is being updated, and there's new wetlands that are being considered, and then hence our resource section zone around them automatically.
Okay, so this is being created by state data?
Yeah, the definition of what constitutes protection in the shoreline zoning state regulations.
Okay, but there must be like a layer on the GIS mapping?
Yes,
that
yeah,
shows that?
there's 250 feet, and there's a, you know, say for example, a certain wetland over 10 acres is considered that needs to be included in resource protection, so you map out 250 buffer about where that's being delineated by the state.
Okay. So I was talking to these guys earlier today about the state, any of the maps that I find on the GIS mapping. And I, of course, having this in front of me before, when we brought it to the council, first thing I look at, I know my property, right? So I looked at it and I've looked at the state maps already, and the state maps still show, it's off. In relation to my property, it's off by a half mile.
Right, yeah.
Which is,
So
I was just wondering where.
Any of these digital maps are just for, illustrative purposes. When it comes to any issue within, for getting a shoreline zoning permit that might be related to that, you would have to go and verify all of that.
I understand that, but with today's technology and digital mapping, you can look at the state overlay and you can see very clearly that it's much more significant resource protection on that map than on the state map. So I guess I just don't understand how is that possible with today's digital technology? And I mean, myself, I'm just gonna use myself as an example. You know, I've got some properties that has, on that map has resource protection running through the middle. I would rather not have that shown as, not have my property as that stigma. Resource protected, shown across my property, and I'm sure there's many other places in the community. If, if the maps are that far off and they're just written off as, it's a broad overlay and you have to have everything ground verified and all that, there's probably a lot of the places in the community where the maps are significantly off. How do we correct that?
Can I further illustrate a point that Lloyd making is that in my.
How far, excuse me, Aaron, how far off was it?
Mile?
Half a mile.
So my concern is twofold. One is I want to know where the information and resource, and I want it to be sourced on the digitalization, meaning if I'm a developer, contractor, or what have you, I'm not going to necessarily wait, but I'm going to decide on a project based on looking at this. I'm not going to site verify it immediately. I may say, no, that's not going to be an option. And if there are discrepancies, I would like at least a developer contractor to be able to immediately verify or have the information where it came from on the overlay. Does that make sense?
That's my point exactly.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make sense the source of the data.
The difference is, say I wanted to have my property, have a, full forestry permit and have it logged. There's certain setbacks, I believe, that in a resource protected area are much more significant than non-resource protected. So if the state's looking at it, the forest is looking at it as a, looking at the map and sees that there's no resource protection on there, it's a lot more likely or easier to approve the permit than going and looking at looking at a resource protected area on the map, having either send an engineer, a soil scientist, or somebody out there to verify that it is or is not. If it's not designated by the state as resource protected, it's making it more difficult on not just me, any of the property owners of that.
And I think it is a problem that's unique to Winthrop in that we do have a huge watershed. So it is important to me as a representative of people in the town to make sure that we are getting it right the first time, and then also making sure that if like someone in Roy's situation comes across something where there's a variance, that they have the ability to say, okay, this is where that information comes from. This is where I need to go to figure that out or correct it.
How does that do?
I guess we'd have to have a conversation with the DEP about, so that they would agree with, whichever data layer is used, whichever data layers they consider the ones that they can sign off on. Because the shoreline zoning that's mapped out, along with the shoreline zoning ordinance language is the DEP that wants to ultimately have to sign off on that.
So did you actually get the boundaries from the DEP?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what was then put in.
We used the definition of what is supposed to be protected by statute and DEP. And then hence generate the shoreline zoning boundaries based off that,
So, but did you get the shoreline zoning boundaries from DEP, or did you generate the boundaries?
I generated the boundaries, yeah.
Okay. Based on the definition.
Yeah, so the answer to that was you got the boundaries from the state?
No, I generated the boundaries based off the definitions from the state.
Okay, you use the state.
The state say that a wetland over 10 acres, it requires resource protection, so I identified the wetlands over 10 acres and I generated.
Okay, so
Back here on this.
the question is who verified the wetland and its specific exact location?
That is a good question. We'd have to, I think it's the Department of, I don't know who originally created that data layer, I could probably find out, it would be someone at the state DEP, if not the National Wetland Advisory.
Well, it wasn't, I guess my point is it wasn't you who drew the map. And I can tell you, after 35 years, 31 years operating a lakefront business, and currently having boundaries with resource protected areas. At one point, I was actually told by the DP that, you know, we take aerial photos and we slap it on the map. So if that's the data you're relying on, we don't have any significant improvement of what you have there versus what we had before.
Yeah, and that's not what I was asked to digitize what already exists, I wasn't made the task to go out and figure out exactly where my wetlands are.
I mean, a huge, you know, listening to Roy over there, it creates huge reservations. Is there a draft copy that the average citizen can look up on the computer right now? And can they drill down with that draft copy to sections where they might own property?
Yeah, I provided the link a long time ago for people to.
Is it there now?
And zoom in. I mean, yes, yeah,
It's on the town website.
I couldn't speak to that.
So
Is it? Or is it?
my quick question, listening to you, and why would the state give us so much from our town map? Why wouldn't we
Which
just use
state map are we referring to?
The
I
GIS.
Just
map.
gave you the answer to that one, Jim.
The GIS map that I was looking at, and Dawn's actually on here, she pulled it up as well. And we had the layers for wetlands on, for bird habitat,
Is it
wildlife.
beginning with habitat?
What's that?
Is it beginning with habitat?
So,
Is that the,
no, it's the state of Maine GIS map.
okay,
You can go onto there and you can add them all. State of the different layers on there, and none of the layers here what this did.
I'm just questioning, why wouldn't we use that versus having you go and redo that versus just rely on what the state already has on a document?
Dawn. She's unmuted.
Great.
Dawn, did you have a question or comment?
No, I'm sorry. I was just unmuting myself in case I had an observation.
Okay.
Dawn, did you save that link to that map that we were looking at the other day?
Did I save the link?
Yeah, did you save the link to the state of Maine GIS map?
We were looking at the beginning with habitat maps.
Okay,
And yeah, I do have that link. In fact, Rick and Don and I were looking at it this morning in my office. So that's where it is, beginning with habitat.
Don, I tried to go on there, I couldn't zoom down very far. When you had it up, I thought.
So my question is, why wouldn't we use that, just creating another map?
I haven't created another map, I've brought in data from the state main geo library, which includes wetlands, and that's their wetland. Supposedly, I have no problem, if we wanna, this is the whole point, if we wanna look at these maps and say, well, this doesn't seem right, are we gonna look into it, we're gonna change it, I'm not here to try and,
No, I'm not saying you are, I just was curious why we created a different one and sort of created, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and keep in mind that this is meant to be a representation of all of our zones. I mean, we're really focused right now on resource protection. But it's meant to be a representation of where all the zones are.
If are we talking about the old Lewiston Road area, that was in resource protection, so that was 2010 with the zoning from the 2010 home plan. So it's been on the books for at least 4 years.
so why is it in resource protection on our? Is our resource protection as a community different than like the state's delineated resource protection?
It can be, I mean, there'll be the minimum that the state requires, a community is more than welcome to put anything else it would like into resource protection.
I'm pretty sure process did not, we did not. Don, do you have any input into that, on the comprehensive plan? I don't believe we did any resource.
I went back through all my data and I was checking the 2010 maps and then that area was included. I can't say how it was added, again.
So keep in mind, he's referencing the 2010 plan, not the 2004 plan.
So that answered a little bit of question of where the data came from. So the data came from the 2010 comprehensive plan.
What do you want to say?
That particular map does, but the data comes from a larger source, which I assume will be
What do we need to film
the National Wetland Inventory.
No, and it's not just this, I want to be clear, it's not just this one piece of property. I'd like to know where the data is coming from that we are pulling the boundaries.
Okay.
That's it.
I think I could step in here.
Folks, it's obvious, you're
I was
not willing to accept this map or proposal. So I would recommend you table it,
Okay.
and we'll move on to our business, and
Come back to you.
that is priority.
And
Is it something that you guys are comfortable with taking on?
We did it. We did a comparison between that and the digital copy of Georgia. And our objective was to determine the accuracy of the digital map relative to those maps. Now, there's some overlays that Joe referenced, that are above and beyond that. But our job was to look at that set of maps and detail it, and put it onto that map. So digital. If you look at that set of maps, it's falling apart.
Yeah.
Okay, so we felt an urgency to get it documented, so we don't lose that information.
Right.
Now, we have a particular piece of property that has an issue with it. The whole intent was to get it available so we could deal with those. I recommend that going forward, we look at that particular piece of property with Joel and say, okay, what is the justification? Learn from it and fix whatever we gotta fix, if we gotta fix it.
Is that something that you're
What,
going?
excuse me, and so what I'm hearing in general is, you don't trust the map in general. If that's the case, we're wasting our time.
No, I would say, at least in my sense, I would say, I wanna see a clear process for a community member to come and fix something if they see it differently. Also, I wanna see their ability to get the information where it was sourced. So if this is an MLA paper, I wanna know where, I wanna see a source on the actual map digitized with a link that brings up reference to the GIS, and I understand that it has to be all field verified. But what I would say is I would prefer to have a process, pending verification, we verify, we approve this, which I think we should. I think we need to identify a process, whether through the planning board or whatnot, for residents to say, no, this is not correct, it's not accurate, and then the ability to.
Andy?
Yeah, okay, I heard it mentioned that the 2010 comprehensive plan created some zoning boundaries. I on the 2010 comprehensive plan committee, and in fact, I was the chairperson of the zoning part of it. And I do not recall that we established any new zones, boundaries, or any such thing as that. We included a sketch map from the old map, okay? And in any case, the comprehensive plan is not an ordinance and can't be used as such. So you can't, whatever we did, you can't use that with any authority at all, okay? You just can't, and I'm not gonna vote to support this, because clearly it's not accurate. A lot of the data was taken from, what I know to be inaccurate, DEP, slapping on the map type stuff. I'm just not supportive. There needs to be.
Where the boundaries came from.
Well, there needs to be a process to, like, if your surveyor comes out and says, this is the line, it's 250 feet from the lake or 1,000 feet from the lake. Okay, then the town has to be willing to accept that.
Yeah.
Without a lot of argument and belonging. Okay, it's just, you're not a big planning board process.
I do appreciate what you guys are doing, and I do think we need to have something digitized. I just want to make sure, I think what to Aaron's point, is there's a process in place to, if somebody. If there's a discrepancy on something that could be reviewed. And maybe, and then the possibility it could change, not that it wouldn't be changed, it just would have to be reviewed if they see something, a variance, you know what I'm saying? But I do appreciate all the hard work you guys are putting into this map and digitizing it, because that is too bad. So I do appreciate the hard work that you guys have done, so thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
if I could just make a couple of points. When we talk about field verification, The map represents the narrative in the ordinance that describes the district, and there's multiple different criteria. So we talk about wetlands specifically tonight. Hydrology changes, when there's development, for different reasons, and something could be on the map. But then lo and behold, when it comes time to develop it, there aren't wetlands there anymore. It can go either way. That map is never going to be that specific on a case-by-case basis. So I just wanted to mention that there is an expectation that field verification could bring about different results than's on the map. Hopefully not, but that can occur. And there is a process in the zoning ordinance to amend the zoning map. So if it's an error and it needs to be corrected because it's not what it was supposed to be, then that would just be a correction. But if it's a change of the zone, then there is a process in place in the zoning ordinance to amend the map.
Mark first.
Mark first.
This goes
Go
up.
ahead, Mark.
Well, I was gonna listen to her.
Yeah,
Okay.
so Don, I would just say, at least about the point I'm trying to process, say that gets field verified and there is no longer a wetland in that area. What I would like to see is the ability then for that to be updated, it's digitized. With the reason in my opinion, the whole reason we're doing this is to be able to have the most up-to-date and easily accessible information, not only for developers, but for people that own property, values, you name it. So right now, is there a process for them to be able to go and then recheck? Because I'm not talking about changing zoning necessarily, but say it gets field verified, but there's not a wetland there, can that then be reflected on the map?
Yes, we just signed a contract with Haley Ward to do annual updates to our mapping. So, yes.
Yeah, so that solves a lot of the problems.
There is a problem, this is what it is. There is a process to have the maps amended. I'll give you a couple of examples that might help you out a little bit. We had on the west shore of Cobbessy, we had probably a 4-lot stretch that was resource protection. Both the left side and the right side of these said lots were shoreline zoning. They changed it because, first of all, they weren't sure why that was actually noted as resource protection. But they went through the process with the planning board and for the town council, DEP was involved. They did change the map. It's a possibility to change that map. We're talking about wetland. Is this thing on? We're talking about wetlands. I'm gonna give you a prime example of how wetlands are determined. The new fire station at the top of 202 was wetlands. It was wetlands because something in the process created the soils to become wet. That can only be changed by Maine DEP and their field work to go out to determine whether it is wetlands or not. You can be on a mountainside with a field and it can be wetlands. We don't know, so. The maps that we have here, the one that needs put out is for conveyance. It's not gonna be accurate 100%. I will be honest with you, probably 97% of the people have no idea what zone they live in. They don't ever ask. Usually it's me telling them, hey, yeah, you can have livestock here in the rural zone. But typically, people don't know what zone they're in, and that's, I guess that's my job to get that out, but. So having this map digitized doesn't mean it's gospel as far as, what's gonna happen. We should get something out there. If it needs to be changed, there is a process to have it changed. There's no way that individually we have the resource for everybody to come in and have their lot changed. It is what it is. I mean, I live in a rural zone. I'm a little over 300 feet from the lake. Am I gonna be considered shoreline zone? There's set boundaries for different zones that are set, and we need to get something on the books. So that people can actually look if they want to, which, normally it's a realtor. It's not a homeowner. They don't typically look out to see what zone they're in, so. Having something is better than what we have with the 62 maps that are about to fall apart.
Yeah, I have two questions. One, is our new map, can that be overlaid with the tax maps? Just a quick yes, or no, it can be.
Yes, and
Okay,
it will be.
Then the next question is it as simple as saying, coming in and seeing Mark and saying, this, Mr. Smith, and keep it out of my own personal thing here, comes into Mark and says, well, this line on the map says that the shoreline zone is 100 foot from my house, and my surveyor can show you that it's 300 foot from my house. Do you have the authority to say, fine, take the surveyor's word for it? Can you make that change? Is it that simple? That would be
I'm
nice.
not sure that, I mean, I've never seen that in my 9 years.
Well, I'm exaggerating a little, but if there's an error in the line, and a surveyor, say back from the high water mark, and a surveyor says, this is where the line is. Can you make that correction to the map?
I can personally, I mean, if it's something that needs to be changed, I think it's planning board and the council.
Yeah, but can you authorize the property owner to proceed on the basis of that line?
It is a survey showing me, if somebody comes to me with a survey saying the property is 300 feet from the shoreline. I'm gonna issue the permit based on it not being shoreline zone.
On the survey, it's irrespective of the map.
So this,
Conveyances are not for conveyances, so we can only use them.
so this is important. This is the last paragraph on your back. This is important. This is actually language from the map. Data presented on this map is for informational purposes and may not have been prepared for or be suitable for legal, engineering, or surveying purposes. That's not the purpose of this. It does not represent an on-the-ground survey and represents only the approximate relative location of property boundaries.
So that means Mark is free to determine with the aid of a surveyor, the specific location of the boundary.
This is not meant to be regulatory in nature. It's for illustrative purposes.
So what is regulatory when it comes to
The ordinance.
the ordinance? How does the ordinance delineate source protected areas?
We don't, Maine DEP does that.
Statute. So
The map or myself, I cannot delineate wetlands, it's
so my point is,
DEP does that.
If it's if it's on the map, that's what we're referencing as in, and I'm just gonna use the resource protection because that's what I know about. That, if you look at that map, and that map says that that's properties in resource protection, when somebody goes to pull a permit on that piece of property, Mark's gonna look at the map.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
Use that map.
If I were you, I'm gonna use you for an example, I would contact Maine DEP tomorrow and ask them to come up look at your property
Well,
and determine that.
it's not necessarily about my property, it's about
It is.
the accuracy of the map.
We just.
Using my property as an example.
Anthony just gave you the divulsion of.
Yeah, again, Roy, it says on the map itself, it does not represent an on-the-ground survey. So it's for illustrative purposes only. This map is not going to prevent someone from doing something or not doing something. It's simply meant to illustrate where the zones are.
well, that's to Roy's point, it may dissuade development.
No, because if somebody's gonna develop, he's gonna develop his land, he's gotta have a survey, he's gotta have somebody on the ground determining the soils are suitable for.
But if you're looking,
Well, wait a second. He just said, and this is true, he's right about this. The vast majority of people do not know what zone they're in. So when they want to develop something, they contact Mark and Mark helps them, or Dawn, and they help them determine whether or not they can do what they want to do on their property, depending upon its zoning.
What you use. Like, again, use my property just because we're talking about it. what do you, if I come to you and say, I wanna build a house down there, which I'm going to.
Yep. And I encourage it.
Yeah, but what do you use for tools to say you can or you can't?
My maps,
Your maps.
the maps.
So the maps show wetland area in my, this map shows wetland area, that map does not show wetland.
Correct.
So this is my point, if you're gonna use the maps, shouldn't the maps be accurate?
So the maps that we're probably looking at are from 2000. Well, let me look, hang on.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, yes.
I
Sure.
want to.
Go ahead.
I want to note that the maps represent the individual criteria in the zoning ordinance, the different resources, so 20% slopes or greater, or wetlands, or certain habitat. Those are the deciding factors. This map is an illustration of the most restrictive of those criteria. And it's always going to be determined in the field. So when you ask, you come in for a permit, you're building a road, it is your surveyor, it is your soil scientist who's going to say, here's where the line is. Because Mark's not qualified to do that, and I'm not qualified to do that. You have to be a soil scientist. Whoever is an expert, an engineer, depending on what the project is, that's when that would come into play as far as a specific location on the ground. So it's the most inclusive of any of those criteria in the resource protection district.
So what is gonna determine the fact, and again, use me as an example. What is gonna determine the fact of whether I need a soil scientist or an engineer?
It depends on what you're doing. So if you're gonna come in for a subdivision, you're gonna need to provide all the information that the planning board needs to see to make a decision whether or not your project meets the requirements of the ordinance. So you're gonna have to show where the wetlands are, you're gonna have to show drainage for your roads. It depends on what it is that you're proposing.
I have a question that kind of you both can answer. So just using Roy as an example, he's got a big blue line through his property that divides it right in the center, basically. He's not allowed to build on that area, although the maps are old and he's walked the property or had it surveyed. How does he remove that designation so that he's able to build on that?
You can contact Maine DEP, they may go out and do some perk tests or even some soils tests and determine it to not be
Okay.
wetlands. And you can delineate wetlands, so to say you can't do that, you can, so. Maine DEP, you can delineate, I'm just gonna give some numbers that I believe are accurate, say 14,999 square feet. It's a small permit, they can delineate those wetlands, that's plenty to build a house. If you wanna go above that, then it gets to be a lot steeper fee, but, and they can have DEP go out, NERPA, and do soils test, and it may not be wetlands, and we can change that.
So Mark, what I'm hearing you say is that if someone wants to develop their land and they have a survey and they find out there's not a wetland on it, we can amend the map in order to reflect that. And in fact, moving forward with Haley Ward as our contractor, then we can do that on an annual basis. So the map would be updated on an annual basis as opposed to every 16 years or whatever that map over there represents.
There's, yeah.
So someone has to wait a year to get an amendment on their property?
Well, that's just changing the map. It's not going to prevent them from developing the property, Andy.
So Mark can say it's okay to go ahead.
That's not, I don't think that's what Mark said. I think what Mark said is that the on the ground work by an engineer or a surveyor would determine whether or not they develop.
Say Roy, something changes, Roy wants to sell that property. He wants to be able to say that I've had this done, it's not, so either the town has an amended version until it gets up. something or a process that is in place to say this has been amended, it has been field verified that it is indeed not resource protection.
Well, you're not gonna be able to get a permit unless that happens, to develop whatever it is that you're
He
developing.
wants to be able to say that to change value of the road. He wants to be able to have that mental, so other than I do property or something, having to do a whole new survey or. That's what I'm getting at.
You can amend,
But we also,
I mean, all maps can be amended. It's
But I think with this, we should ensure that there's a process that says there's, or something that can overlay or highlight, say, there's an amended version here. Don, does that make any sense to you?
It's a little bit choppy. I think I got what you're saying. I just feel it's unnecessary. It's always field verified. So someone's saying, hey, there's wetlands in this area. When you do a project, that's when you delineate it. And the planning board looks at this almost every meeting when shoreline applications come in. So properties, you look at them on the map, it's at such a scale that sometimes you're not sure, where they want to build. Is it in the shoreland? Is it outside of the shoreland? So they have a surveyor delineate, and that's where the district is, and it's on a property by property basis.
I'm looking at our zoning ordinance, and it has a certification of official shoreline zoning maps. Certified by a municipal clerk and adopted at the municipal office. It says any changes to the official shoreline zoning map, if amendments in accordance with section 8 are made in the district boundaries or other portrayed on the official zoning map, such changes shall be made on the map within 30 days after the amendment has been approved by the Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection.
That's for the state, right? No, that's our local map. So anytime you do an amendment to it or a change to a map. But I'll use the example, it's on the end of Clement Lane, it was the 3 or 4 lots that were resource protection. And it clearly shoreline zoned area. DEP was involved, Owen Clark was here, there's David Lee, our previous chair of our planning board, is his property in that area. They went through the process, the planning board changed it, the council agreed to it, they changed it. So any amendment you do to shoreline zoning has to, by law, go to the commissioner. And it's usually Owen Clark that reviews it, and then 30 days post that, then it becomes official.
So that has to be shown on the map.
In our zoning ordinance, it says that it will be verified on the ground by the codes enforcement officer, so. In here, it says, yes, it's a field verification. In our
Right,
zoning,
and if I determine or think it's wetlands, then that's when DEP gets in. Like I said, I cannot delineate wetlands, so if I think it's wetlands, then DEP would look at it. And they would make their determination. They may say, no, it's not wetlands. We don't have to worry about it.
Like, I guess to drill this down, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, okay? If the map shows on Mr. Smith's property that, the shoreline zone is 350 feet from the lake. When you scale the thing out, and the surveyor says, this is the 250 feet shoreline zone. Can you move ahead, or do you have to wait a year? Or do you have to call a DEP, or just how big of a process is this? Or can you just say, the surveyor is correct, he's licensed?
Our maps by that shoreline zoning are very accurate. Our maps are either 1 to 100 feet or 1 to 500. And you can take a ruler and they're pretty accurate. There's a couple of cases where in my 9 years where Colin Clark has come to me and said, let's go measure this. We measured it out and realized that the line was, further away from the property than it showed. So it was a benefit to the property owner, and that's what we did. We just moved it there because it was inaccurately marked on the map. Doesn't change anything. I mean, it's the resource protection was not where the line said, but the line was only there for conveyances through the town. Somebody measured it, and that's where they put it.
I guess at this point, I'm comfortable making a motion to approve the updated zoning map as presented with included information in the exact process that would be required if there is a concern for variance.
But it's in the ordinance.
in our zoning.
Right, I
ordinance.
just want to highlight it on the map itself or somewhere on link or a hyperlink or something.
A reference to the zoning ordinance.
Yes.
We certainly work on
getting the list of the data sources. For example, where that one we were talking about pops up, it's from the National Wetland Inventory from the Main Natural Areas Program.
Because that used to be where Nancy's blog was, correct?
No, not even close.
Not even.
A mile away.
No.
So I did make a note. That's up over the hill, down over the other side.
So something somewhere created the wetlands. Well, maybe the prime example is the Winter Fire Department, like over here, what that has.
Yeah, but here's the prime example is what we looked at earlier.
The ladies are falling down all over the place.
Property, if you want to Google Earth it and look at it,
I can only
it's
carry.
way wetter beyond my property, that's not inlet. That's not shown there as wetlands.
No.
Neither is the whole Hoyt Brook area out through.
And that's street protection, so that's
That's
we did turn that.
Not
Street protection, not wet.
But stream protection and wetlands are two big differences in setback.
Very big difference.
I'm gonna second. So we have a motion and a second to approve the updated zoning map as presented. All in favor? Should we wait? James?
He left.
Oh.
Left,
Yeah, he did. Sandy's having some.
Okay. And all those opposed? Anyone absent? Okay.
That will be sent to the state and they will certify the resource protection and shoreland, and it will go into effect when they certify it.
Make a motion to table.
All right, so
I just want to say happy birthday to Mr.
Oh, happy birthday.
thank you. Happy birthday.
And we
That's my dedication.
Yeah, and for your
Yeah,
patience,
thank
this was
you.
a long meeting
No,
tonight.
thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
I make a motion that we table items 156, 157, 158, 159.
No, wait. Not 159.
Back out, not 159, 160. Yeah.
I second.
Okay,
Okay, so we're tabling 156 through 158?
correct.
Yep.
All right, I'll wait for Andy as well.
Under duress. 59, Anthony.
No, we don't.
Get Andy to do that.
Andy, let's go.
Real quick, Andy,
Coming. What do you want?
there has been a motion to table and a second to table 156, 157, and items 158.
Who seconded?
Okay.
Who seconded? Okay.
Linda.
Oh, Linda.
No, I made the motion.
Oh,
Okay.
I second.
It's getting late. All right, all in favor?
Can we go home?
No.
Oh.
Okay, so all in favor?
Is it possible to send me? Oh, you got that.
Well, you can talk about this later. We're still moving on.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Item 159, consideration of adding a finance director Nicholas Poole in addition to the town manager to act on behalf of the town with regards to the corporate resolution held in Kennebec Savings Bank for town accounts as referenced on page 1 of the resolution.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor? All are in favor, thank you. Item 160, consideration of approval of the minutes of September 9th and September 23rd council meetings.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yep.
Linda?
I'm gonna abstain because I wasn't there the 23rd.
501. Good.
That's why there was endings.
All right. And item 160, consideration of recommendation from the appointments committee.
Don't have any appointments at this time. It should be 161.
And moving on to other business, anything from the audience, public comments? Anyone online? All right, well, on to the town manager's report.
Just a reminder that on Indigenous Peoples' Day, I'll be out this Friday, and the following Wednesday and Thursday, because I'm celebrating my anniversary.
Nice.
Would you like to hear
Happy anniversary.
my wife's jokes that she hates the most?
How many years?
Christina and I have been married 14 wonderful years. As far as I'm concerned, it's about 11 of them. So we are
The average.
we are paving the Soper and Wilson Pond roads tomorrow. and then the Cross and Old Western Avenue on Wednesday. And just a reminder that absentee ballots are available through October the 31st. And so far, we've issued more than 600
Oh, wow.
absentee ballots. So people are eager to vote. And I'm going to email you guys just about the rest of this stuff.
Anything from the counselors?
We have to table the executive session.
One thing that I would like to have just brought up at another meeting, we don't have to discuss it tonight, is the, I've had a couple people now come and ask me about extended hours, at least one night a week in the town office. I know we.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I'm not talking 4 days a week and extended hours. I'm talking shift schedules around and give 1 day a week where we can say.
Well, when we have that conversation, let's have all the options on the table.
Table, we can move on and have that conversation.
So it is there.
That's part of, I believe, the chapter 5 personnel policy.
I move that we table the executive session that we have on the.
Okay, with that.
Second.
Well, can we without any issues, Anthony?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second.
Andy, all in favor to table our executive session? All are in favor, thank you.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Adjourn the meeting at 9:26 or 24.
All right. Second, all in favor?
Yeah.
You spent all that money on that, man.
Thank you very much, everyone, for being, for your patience.
It's true.
All right, good night, guys.
Good night. Be safe going on.
Huh? Thank you. All right.